Chapter 306. Fire Nation in a Nameless Forest. Naruto and his companions were resting. Are you hungry? Do you want a soldier food pill? 04 walked up to Naruto. Naruto shook his head like a rattle drum. That thing makes my stomach bloat. I think I'll be able to last until dinner time. 04 tried persuading him. There are so many flavors: fruit-flavored, barbecue-flavored, and seafood-flavored. Naruto continued shaking his head. I won't eat it unless you can find a creamy chocolate-flavored one. 04 rolled its eyes at Naruto and went to sell it to 05. In the mental network, Naruto chatted with Hinata. How's it going? Did you guys find any old monkeys? Hinata replied, I didn't see any old monkeys, but I did see a group of little white-furred monkeys. The president is wondering if he can raise these monkeys into ninja beasts. Naruto joked, what? The president wants to raise a group of monkeys as psychic beasts? Hinata replied, no, the president wants to raise the monkeys into ninja beasts and sell them for money. Naruto laughed and was about to mock her when he suddenly had an idea. Raising ninja beasts and selling them for money seemed like a way to make money as well. However, the relationship between humans and animals was much better than between humans and animals. When the time came, he would be willing to part with them. But if he didn't sell them for money and rented them out, would that work? Could he create a ninja beast mercenary group? Hee. At this moment, 04 threw a stone at Naruto. Naruto reflexively caught it. Then he saw 04 gesturing at him. Naruto followed 04's gaze and saw a monkey. Did they find the monkey's habitat? Naruto moved closer to 04 and expanded his perception barrier. Within a 1-kilometer radius, Naruto saw a large group of monkeys. However, he couldn't sense Chakra's aura. They were all ordinary wild monkeys. Naruto was disinterested. The other two members of the squad began their exploration. Should he tell them? Naruto thought about it and gave up. Although the perception barrier wasn't a secret, it would be troublesome to explain. Continue to slack off. Thus the afternoon passed. During this afternoon, Naruto learned that the monkeys really had a monkey king. This was because when the monkeys noticed that they had invaded the monkeys' territory and refused to leave, they actually launched a siege against them. Of course, in the end, the monkey king was beaten up by Naruto. Are you still going to be mischievous? Naruto slapped the monkey's neck. Medical ninjutsu. Flickering body rush. The monkey wanted to resist, but when it wanted to stand up, it squatted down. When it wanted to pick up a stone to attack the enemy, it punched itself in the face. After experiencing all kinds of strange things, the Monkey King finally cowered and began to whimper and beg for mercy. Looking at the monkey beating itself up, 004 and 007 widened their eyes and exclaimed, What did you do to this monkey? Could it be that you also know illusions? Naruto explained, It's not illusions. It's a branch of medical ninjutsu. I messed up its nervous system. After saying that, Naruto pointed at the monkey's head and asked, Are you still going to be mischievous? How could the wild monkeys in the mountains understand human language? They lay on the ground and felt so stifled that they were about to cry. What was even more amazing was that after Naruto taught the Monkey King a lesson, a few of the little monkeys actually brought over fruits. At first, Naruto thought that the little monkeys wanted to redeem the Monkey King, but when Naruto released the Monkey King, he realized that he was wrong. Because the monkeys actually followed him around. You don't have to send us off. We're leaving this forest. Naruto waved to the monkeys. However, the monkeys still followed. 005 whispered, I feel like the monkeys are treating you as the Monkey King. 004 seconded, I think so too. Naruto rolled his eyes. Are you saying that I look like a monkey? In the end, Naruto used Earth Release to imprison all the monkeys in place and left. 005 said with some disappointment, Actually, I think it's good to take care of those monkeys. Naruto rolled his eyes back. When everyone rushed to the second monkey habitat, this time, Naruto refused to fight and instigated 004 to fight with the monkeys. Sister 004, you go and try it. Let's see if the monkeys will listen to you after you defeat the Monkey King. 0 and 5 would support whichever side's opinion was interesting. She quickly agreed. Sister 004, you go and try it. 004 then beat up the Monkey King, but this time, there was no scene of the monkeys pledging allegiance. Instead, a group of monkeys rushed over like crazy. 004 raised her hand and activated Earth Release Ninjutsu Weightless Field. One by one, the monkeys floated up and were thrown away. After landing, the group of monkeys took the Monkey King and fled. 004 said in a self-deprecating tone, "It seems I'm not the Monkey King material." But the meaning behind her words wasn't difficult to understand. That is, 007, accept the Monkey King identity. Naruto touched his chin and said seriously, maybe it's because of gender discrimination. After all, the Monkey King is male. 004. Oh, monkey. Naruto rolled his eyes and said, why do you think the monkeys are looking at me like that? As the sky gradually darkened, the three found a place to camp. Naruto took out his B's small black and yellow sleeping bag and hung it on a tree. The two girls were surprised by Naruto's small sleeping bag, especially when they saw that there were snacks, joke books, and table lamps in the sleeping bag. And there was a fan. 005 touched B's yellow and black butt and said, this sleeping bag is so cute, just like me. Naruto blinked. 004 pulled the needle on the butt of B's sleeping bag and said, this sleeping bag is so full, just like me. Naruto's mouth twitched as he glanced at the two girls. You want to use this? The two girls nodded. Naruto took a deep breath and then exhaled helplessly. Okay, but there's only one sleeping bag. How are you going to split it? 004 said considerately, I can hug 005 to sleep. 005 didn't refuse. What else could Naruto say? Okay, this and the sleeping bag are for you. 004 praised. Little brother 007, you're so nice. 005 quickly said. Yes, little brother 007 is the best. Naruto's heart beeped. Beep. Nice guy card. Naruto rolled his eyes and walked to another tree. Then he took out another B's sleeping bag and hung it on the tree. This was a spare sleeping bag, but because of his experience camping with Hinata last time, Naruto also filled this sleeping bag with things, jokes, food. There was nothing lacking. The two girls approached again. Naruto hugged the sleeping bag and said, what are you doing? 004 said embarrassedly, that two people sleeping in one is too crowded. Do you have any extra? Naruto hugged the sleeping bag tightly. I only have this one. I'll fight anyone who tries to steal it. 005 said pitifully, I'm such a cute girl. Do you have the heart to see me squeezed into a sleeping bag? Naruto shook his head in disbelief. You're wearing a mask. You think you're cute just because you say so? However, 005 directly took off her mask. Naruto firmly said, I'm a man with a family, seduction won't work. Then 004 also took off her mask, and the two girls looked at Naruto affectionately. Stare. In the end, the two girls each had a comfortable B's-ass sleeping bag. Naruto was lying next to the fire wrapped in a coarse cloth sleeping bag. He laughed at himself. Men. However, although he sacrificed the sleeping bag, he also got some benefits in exchange. For example, 004 promised him that she would be responsible for teaching Naruto the gravity-changing technique of Earth Release Ninjutsu. In the spiritual network, Hinata greeted Naruto. The sleeping bag you prepared for me is so comfortable. Naruto replied, there are some snacks in the side pocket, but remember to rinse your mouth before going to bed after eating. Hinata repeatedly nodded, then asked, Naruto-kun is also sleeping in the sleeping bag, right? It's also a sleeping bag. Unfortunately, it's not made by him, Naruto. Yeah, Hinata. It's so nice to sleep in the same sleeping bag as Naruto-kun. Good night, Naruto-kun. Naruto. Good night. Naruto, who was a little hurt in his heart, was healed by this good night. Chapter 307. On the third day of searching for the demonic ape king, the president received an intelligence scroll from the underground trading house. There was only one sentence in the intelligence scroll. The Woodleaf ninjas are heading east from the old haunt of the Sarutobi clan, and are suspected to have found clues about the demonic ape king. On the same day, everyone gathered and decided to follow after discussion. In the spiritual network, Naruto and Hinata privately chatted. It seems that meeting Kakashi Sensei is inevitable. Hinata replied, "Well, what should I do?" Naruto thought for a while and said, "Don't use the Hyuga clan's taijutsu in front of him. Don't use Byakugan, don't let him see your face." After pondering for a moment, he shook his head and said, "Forget it, let's adapt to the situation." Everyone came to the old haunt of the Sarutobi clan and chased east. The first to find their location was Naruto, who opened the perception barrier to the limit, 10 kilometers away in the east. Look at the footprints here. It seems that they are not far away. Relying on the perception barrier, Naruto accurately found the traces of the Woodleaf ninjas that had not been cleaned up. The girls gathered around and followed the footprints found by Naruto, and soon everyone made other discoveries. The president praised, "007 is very good, sharp observation." Naruto laughed and said, "When I was a child, I was afraid of being poor and always wanted to lower my head and pick up money." The president rolled his eyes and complained, "A 12-year-old brat talking about a child. Is it when you were 5 years old? Were you short of money when you were 5 years old?" Naruto said seriously, "I was short of money when I was born, really." With Naruto's discovery, the following tracking was much simpler. 005 and the psychic ninja beast, Dragonfly, had similar visual sharing abilities, so they found the Woodleaf ninjas first, and then carefully followed. But the Woodleaf ninjas were not so easy to track. After 5 kilometers of tracking, Naruto found that the Woodleaf ninjas noticed 005's Dragonfly. They've stopped to rest. Naruto sighed in his heart. They didn't stop to rest. They discovered you. There were 2 shadow clones at the original location. The real person was already rushing over. How should I remind them? Naruto asked. Is it possible that the other party discovered you? 005 is a very timid girl. Hearing Naruto's words, she became nervous. I'll test it. Probing? How was he going to probe? Then, Naruto saw the little girl deliberately make the dragonfly appear in the Woodleaf ninjas' field of vision. None of the Woodleaf ninjas looked over, and continued to do their own things. 05 made a hand seal, and the spirit communication technique was cancelled. The dragonfly disappeared from where it stood. The Umbu ninjas of Woodleaf all turned their heads. They were very calm and didn't look surprised or shocked. They looked at each other, and then at Kakashi. The reaction of the Woodleaf ninjas indicated that they had discovered the dragonfly's tracking. The reason why 005 had used this method was because there was another dragonfly hidden in the layers of leaves watching the scene in front of them. She deliberately exposed one dragonfly, and then used the other to observe the reaction of the Woodleaf ninjas. It had to be said that she was very smart. Naruto saw this scene clearly. He gave the little girl a thumbs up in his heart. 005's voice was full of grievance. "President, they might have discovered us." The president's expression was calm as usual. He said magnanimously, "If they're exposed, then so be it. Prepare for battle." 004 put her hands into her pockets and pulled out a pair of boxing gloves. She put them on unhurriedly. Naruto couldn't help but say, "That Kakashi is a bit strong." The president replied domineeringly, "We're not weak either." Naruto agreed. The president and 004 were both jonins, and he himself was already strong enough to fight the other party. But that was when he could use his full strength. There were a total of 4 Woodleaf ninjas in the perception barrier. The leader was Kakashi, and the first person to discover the dragonfly was the Aburame ninja, who also used insects. Naruto didn't recognize the other 2, so he deduced that they were probably small fries. Were they really going to fight head-on? While Naruto was considering the difference in strength between the 2 sides, the president suddenly shouted, 007, what are you spacing out for? Let's go. Naruto turned around in a daze, and saw the president leading everyone towards the river. Aren't we going to fight? Naruto asked in a daze. The president replied, strategic repositioning is also part of the battle. Naruto almost spat out blood when he heard this. 005 stood by the river. Everyone jump into the river. I'll be responsible for repositioning everyone. Naruto didn't know what to do, but seeing the president jump in, Naruto also jumped in. After jumping into the river, Naruto felt a slight difference. It seemed like a layer of plastic wrapped around him. Then Naruto saw his body begin to swim forward. It was a fish made of water that wrapped around him. Was this 005's ninjutsu? Interesting. The transparent fish brought everyone up against the current. In the perception barrier, the wood-leaf ninjas foolishly arrived at the position where Naruto and the others were before. At this moment, a song sounded in Naruto's mind. "Ah, friend, goodbye, 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 goodbye." Naruto was still very happy that he didn't meet Kakashi. But the awkward thing was, at the end of the river, was a waterfall. Several transparent fish foolishly struggled a few times, wanting to use the carp leaping over the dragon gate, but failed at this time in the perception barrier. Their position wasn't far from the wood-leaf ninjas, only 1 kilometer away. Did they have to go downstream again? 005 pointed at the lake, asking for the president's opinion. The president pointed up, indicating that they should go ashore first. At this time, in the perception barrier, Naruto saw the ape demon king on the mountain. If they wanted to complete the mission, they had to find a way to go up the mountain. Naruto broke free from the small fish wrapped around him and sank to the bottom of the river. He threw chakra into the riverbed, and then Naruto went in. After a while, Naruto came out again and used earth release to dig a hole, indicating that everyone should follow him. 005 looked at the president, and the president nodded in agreement. Then, the small fish wrapped around everyone disappeared, and everyone came to Naruto's side. Naruto indicated that they should swim with him. Naruto opened the way, and everyone followed. When everyone followed in, the hole behind them suddenly closed. Then, everyone saw the water level begin to drop until it disappeared. The president asked, "This is?" Naruto smiled proudly. "It's a new ninjutsu I came up with, Earth Whale. Didn't 005 make a small fish? I imitated it. You are now standing in the stomach of the Earth Whale, and the Earth Whale is now swimming up the mountain." 004 raised his hand and pressed on the wall, confirming, "We are indeed moving." The president was shocked. "You just came up with this?" Naruto replied, "Not really. The last time I fought with you, I fused the earth reflection fish and the earth spike together to quickly travel through the earth." The president was dumbfounded. How could it be the same? Last time, you were alone. This time, you brought a group of people. Could it be? This is the difference between geniuses and ordinary people? Naruto felt that chakra's consumption was about 1 Rasengan per minute. He could afford this amount of chakra. However, after a while 004 suggested that Naruto not continue to travel through the earth, and asked him to go out. It's easy to get lost in the earth, and it's easy to go in circles for a long time. Naruto said confidently, "It's okay, I also know a little bit of perceptual ninjutsu, so I can see the scene outside." He knows perceptual ninjutsu? The president felt that the gap between him and a genius was even further. After swimming for a while, Naruto pretended to be surprised and said, "Ah, I saw the demonic ape king." The president stared at Naruto suspiciously and said, "Actually, you saw it a long time ago, didn't you?" "Huh. I was discovered. Could it be that my acting wasn't realistic enough?" Naruto touched his mask, or to be precise, touched the position of his nose. Actually, it wasn't that long ago. The president's gaze stare. Chapter 308. Naruto's group found the demonic ape king, and Woodleaf's people also came to find them. But what made Naruto laugh was, the demonic ape king's monkeys reported Woodleaf's whereabouts to the demonic ape king, and then, the demonic ape king packed his luggage, and slipped away from the back of the mountain. Obviously, the demonic ape king didn't want to see Woodleaf's ninjas. Before leaving, he left a letter for the Woodleaf ninjas. There were only 3 words on it. "I'm old." The Umbu ninjas surrounded Kakashi and waited for orders. Kakashi put away the letter. "Let's go back to Woodleaf." And so the Woodleaf ninjas went down the mountain. After the Woodleaf ninjas left, the old monkey came back not long after. Squatting on the top of a tree, it looked down the mountain and mocked. "A bunch of little brats want to sign a contract with me? Dream on." In the mountain, Naruto relayed the development of the incident to the president in oral form. "What about now? Should we go and take that monkey away?" The president refused. Let's leave the ground first and find a safe place to get out. Our mission is just to find out the exact location of the demonic ape king. Everyone left the mountain, and 04 summoned a strange bird to deliver a letter to the underground exchange. The bird had 3 vertical eyes above its 2 eyes. It was pitch black and looked like an eagle. Naruto looked at the strange bird curiously. The strange bird was invisible when it rose into the air. Even the perception barrier couldn't detect it if it didn't know beforehand. He couldn't help but ask curiously, "Is this your summoned beast?" 04 shook his head. "No, it's a messenger for the underground exchange." The strange bird flew away, and everyone guarded the old monkey at the foot of the mountain. There was a small incident at night. Hinata was unhappy when she saw 04 and 05 sleeping in Naruto's bee-butt sleeping bag. In the spiritual network, Hinata said innocently, "You lied to me. You said you slept in the sleeping bag." Naruto played dumb and said, "I didn't lie to you. I slept in the sleeping bag." Realizing that there was something wrong with the words, Hinata snorted. Then she asked something that made Naruto almost spit out his rice. "Naruto-kun, do you also like 04 and 05? Naruto declared his innocence. "How is that possible? I've never even seen their real faces. Maybe they're so ugly under the mask. How could I like them?" Naruto dug himself another dug hole. When it was time to eat dinner, they took off their masks. The president said in surprise, "You guys took off your masks just like that?" There were many guilds who knew each other's true colors, but Hinata and Naruto were new members after all. If they wanted to trust each other, they would have to wait until they completed a few more quests. They said Kun-'s face. 05 nodded profusely. Hinata glared at Naruto. This time, Naruto could feel her murderous intent even through the mask. In the spiritual network, Hinata said in an aggrieved voice, "You lied to me." Naruto hurriedly explained, "I didn't want you to think too much," Hinata repeated. "You lied to me." Naruto admitted his mistake. "I was wrong. I won't do it again." Hinata was angry and ignored Naruto. Naruto looked up at the sky. In the public area, he complained to Natsuya Sakuragi, "Sister Xia, why did you find Hinata an all-female mercenary group?" Natsuya Sakuragi was confused. "The books say that it's safer for girls to be together. Hinata is still young, so I found an all-female mercenary group for her." What else could Naruto say? Sister Xia was right. Normally, he would give her 1,200 likes. But he still felt tired. It was his mouth that was cheap. No, it wasn't his mouth that was cheap. Who told him that white lies were more valuable than the truth? Motherf *Kerr, who told him that even if he died, he would be resurrected and die a few more times? He was so screwed over. The next day, 5 cloaked mercenaries came to the president. The leader was a woman. She praised, "You did well. Leave the rest to us." "Okay, take out your mercenary cards. I'll reward you." The president hesitated for a moment, then took out his mercenary card. The two of them put their cards together. Then a string of numbers appeared on the president's card. They were numbers made up of runes, and they disappeared after a moment. The reward was 1,000,000 taels. This reward was already quite high. The other party said in surprise, Clown Emperor? Aren't you a 3-star mercenary? Why did you drop to 1 star? The president didn't intend to say more. He bowed and thanked them, then turned to leave. Clown Emperor used to be a 3-star mercenary? Naruto looked at the president strangely. The president's expression was very calm. 007, use your technique to leave. The ground under everyone's feet sank, then they disappeared from the ground. The earth whale set sail. Under Naruto's control, it moved very quickly. Hinata skillfully turned on the flashlight to illuminate everyone. After all, the earth whale was sealed and there was no light inside. "President? Are you an enemy?" The president shook his head. "No, I just don't want to be seen as a coward." "Ha, women, who said only men cared about their reputation? Weren't they all the same?" Naruto's mouth twitched. He couldn't help but complain. "Actually, going underground is more like a coward." The president looked at Naruto. "Is it? Then let's go out." Naruto pursed his lips. "Is it tiring?" The president didn't speak. Under the light, the president's expression was a little lonely. Naruto raised his hand and a few earthen chairs appeared. He then took out a blanket and spread it on top. Come sit. The president sat down at Naruto's invitation. The specially treated leather blanket was very smooth. Touching it softly, his mood improved a lot. The sadness in his eyes gradually dissipated. Can it be bigger? I want to lie down? Looking at the twinkling stars in the president's eyes under the light, Naruto suddenly felt that women were really easy to coax. The earthen chair was extended, and the blanket was big to begin with. The president lay down on it and stretched comfortably. It had to be said. The president's curves were very beautiful, especially when set off by the snow-white fox fur. That trace of laziness made him look like a sleepy kitten. Kitten? That was indeed a good description. It was said that women were made of water, and cats were also liquid. Naruto looked at her in a daze for a moment. Hinata pinched Naruto's soft spot. Naruto quivered and almost cried out. He had almost forgotten that he had a jealous lover by his side. Naruto looked at Hinata. What is it now? Naruto naturally knew what was going on. However, it wasn't a bad idea to play dumb. Hinata pouted. I also want to lie down. This request was easy to satisfy. Me too. 05 looked at the president enviously. If it weren't for the president, she would have already snatched it. Me too. This was 04. Naruto said helplessly, Fine. One each. For earthen sofas rose. Then, Naruto took out 3 more blankets from his storage scroll. 05 was pleasantly surprised. Wow. Little brother 07, you seem to have everything on you. It's so convenient. You want everything? Then should I call you Dora 07? Or Dora Naruto? Chapter 309. Naruto steered the earth whale as it sped along. The girls were lying on their respective sofas, chatting. 04 suggested. 07, you can try changing the structure of the soil. It would be great if you could make the soil as soft as a sponge. Naruto's face darkened. Sorry, the sofa is too hard, it's hard for you. However, Naruto still gave it a try. He injected some yang chakra into the sofa, and then let the yang chakra form a membrane, and blew it up. Success. This was a technique of monstrous strength. He didn't know if Tsunade would kill him if he used this technique on the sofa. Probably not. Maybe Tsunade would learn from him, and do it for herself. The soft cushion formed by the yang chakra was blown up under the girls' bodies, and exclamations of surprise rose one after another. 04 foolishly pressed on the sofa. It's elastic. You really did it. How did you do it? Naruto spouted nonsense. I added some yang chakra. I'm a medical ninja. It's a piece of cake. And so the girls began to compliment him. Naruto felt like he was being blown up into the sky. His body was light and comfortable. With the comfortable sofa, the journey became even easier. The president asked, How far have we traveled? Naruto replied, About 10 kilometers. There's still a long way to go before we reach the hotel. You can sleep for a while. The president closed her eyes and nodded. But her heart wasn't calm at all. Was she asking when they would reach home? Of course not. She never thought that they would be able to reach home directly with this technique. How much chakra would they have to spend? But then again, could they really reach home directly with this technique? The president's heart was filled with doubts, and she was also looking forward to it. The earth whale opened up a path in the soil like a submarine, sometimes rising and sometimes descending leisurely. Coupled with the soft bed, everyone felt as if they were sleeping in a cradle. It was very comfortable. The girls took off the masks on their faces and curled up comfortably in the soft fur. Their breaths gradually became even and relaxed. Unknowingly, they fell asleep. 3 hours later, Naruto shouted, Ladies, wake up. We're home. The soil on the earth whale slid off, and sunlight shone in. The dazzling light made everyone's eyelashes tremble. Then they sat up and breathed heavily. This sleep was very comfortable. Where is this? In a daze, everyone looked around and found it somewhat familiar. It was a house with thick metal partitions on the walls. 04 was the first to recognize this place. Isn't this my cultivation room? Naruto replied. Yes, because the floor of this house is made of mud. I just happened to bring you guys out from here. The president also woke up. At first, his heart skipped a beat. He blamed himself for falling asleep so carelessly. This had never happened before. Then his eyes widened and he exclaimed, "We're really home." Looking at the time, however, 3 hours later, one had to know that it took them an entire day to get to that mountain. Then he looked at 07. She was still wearing a mask, so he couldn't see her expression. However, from the rise and fall of her chest, he could see that her breathing was smooth and she didn't look tired. Could it be that this guy dug out a mountain to practice earth melt was true? It was confirmed that she had accidentally recruited a monster into the guild. Then was this a good or bad thing? Did this monster have ulterior motives for joining? She thought back to how Naruto joined. At first, he wanted to take 06 away. Looking further into the matter, 006 asked her if there was a special case for men to join in. She said there weren't, so that was why 07 wanted to take 06 away. She didn't find anything suspicious. After recalling everything, she couldn't help but laugh at herself. The current Clown Emperor was just a small one-star guild. Even when accepting missions, they had to use the identity cards of people who couldn't fight. How could they be worthy of being targeted by others? In that case, it was the guild's fortune that 07 joined. Actually, she just didn't want 07 to take 06 away. In her opinion, 06's talent was quite good, so she didn't want to part with her. Plus, there were only so many people in the guild. If 06 left, it wouldn't be long before the guild disbanded. At this moment, Naruto waved his hand in front of her face. Guild leader, are you still dreaming? We're home. If you're still sleepy, go back to your room and rest. Guild leader. Ah? Oh. 04 followed up. Actually, I feel like I'm also dreaming right now. 04 knocked on the wall of the training room. Dong. 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 It was very realistic. Naruto saw all the girls' reactions. He didn't want to reveal too much of his strength, but he really didn't want to run around on the ground anymore. He had always had a deep grudge against the transportation in this world. So he might as well reveal some of his strength so that it would be more convenient for him to travel in the future. After the girls left, Naruto reached out from behind his back. In Naruto's hand, Butterfly Shiitake, which had lost half of its head, was struggling with all its might. The other half of Butterfly Shiitake's head was lit on fire by Naruto. This was also the reason why everyone had fallen asleep. Otherwise, with a ninja's vigilance, even if they fell asleep, they would still be in a half-asleep state. Of course, Naruto didn't do anything bad by letting everyone fall asleep. He just wanted to let them have a good rest. Naruto could see that when they heard the words Clown Emperor, wasn't it a 3-star guild? Why did the guild leader 04 and 05 spirits all suffer a blow when they fell to 1 star? Little guy, don't struggle anymore. I'll inject some chakra into you. The missing head will quickly grow back. After saying that, Naruto injected the yang attribute chakra into the little mushroom's body. Butterfly Shiitake, who was struggling to the point of being irritable, gradually calmed down as the warm chakra was injected into its body. The missing part on its head grew back a little. Naruto planted Butterfly Shiitake in the soil and injected a lot of chakra into it. The little mushroom's wound didn't continue to grow, but, on the whole, Butterfly Shiitake seemed to have become much fatter. Ninetails became spirited at this time and suggested, "Try injecting some wood attribute chakra. I think it will have a miraculous effect." Naruto replied, "I also think that wood attribute chakra will have a miraculous effect, but I haven't learned it yet." Ninetails. Isn't that good? Let's use this time to experiment on this little mushroom. Experiment on Butterfly Shiitake? Seems like a good idea. Then Naruto fused Earth Attribute Chakra and Water Attribute Chakra together, and injected them into Butterfly Shiitake's body. In an instant, Butterfly Shiitake's head suddenly withered and shriveled. Then with a plop, Butterfly Shiitake's head fell off. Only a white and fat mushroom was left on the ground. Silence. Butterfly Shiitake fell into a daze. Naruto's hand also awkwardly stopped in midair. Its head fell off. Butterfly Shiitake sprang out of the ground and raised its foot to kick Naruto's toe. However, Naruto's thumb didn't hurt, but it fell on its own. Then it got up and continued to charge at Naruto's toe. Naruto used Yang attribute chakra to pacify the irritable little mushroom. He complained to Nine Tails in his heart, "It's your fault." At the same time, he picked up the shriveled head of the little mushroom on the ground. He muttered to himself, "But then again, the drug should still be effective, right?" Just then 04 came back after leaving. 07, I thought of a way to upgrade Earth Whale. Chapter 310. Zero said that the method to improve the whale is very innovative, which is to add the clone jutsu to the whale. What do you think? After adding the clone jutsu, it can take people away on its own. You just need to provide chakra. Zero looked at Naruto with excitement. Naruto also felt the light in his eyes and agreed. This is a good idea. Then he said with some surprise, Sister Zero, you are very different from other people. In other people's consciousness, the clone jutsu is just a clone jutsu used for fighting, and they don't think about how to change the ninjutsu. Zero was surprised. You also think it's feasible, right? I just told the president, and she said I'm stupid. At this time the president also came back. He said to 04, I say, did you really tell 07 about your method? That's an impossible ninjutsu, and do you know how much time it takes to create a ninjutsu? Even if you study it, maybe more than 10 years will have passed. This sentence is so familiar. Naruto feels like he has heard it before. It seems that it was Tsunade who told Jiraiya that back then Naruto didn't agree with the president's words. President, I think it's feasible. The president originally wanted to teach a few words, but Naruto's words directly choked her back, and finally she helplessly said, if you can't do it, remember to apologize to me. The president was about to leave, but Zero made a face at the president's back like a child. Obviously, she was very happy that her idea was approved by Naruto. Naruto suddenly stopped the president and said, President's sister, do you want to make a bet? The president was so angry that she laughed, turned around and said with uncertainty, Are you serious? Naruto felt his blood boiling. Since Sasuke and Orochimaru eloped, he hasn't made a bet with anyone for a long time. She nodded again and again. I'm serious. How about we bet on the information of 10,203? I'm quite curious about them. Speaking of the three girls, the guild leader's face became unnatural. He sighed and said, the news about them is not a secret. Half a year ago, we were carrying out a quest, and were about to complete it when another guild snatched it from us. After that, the two guilds started fighting. The other party was stronger than we expected. Those three girls were crippled by the other party. Now we're running 3 other footholds just like this inn. Other than this inn, we have a few more in other places. Just because the 3 main forces were crippled, the guild's level dropped from 3 stars to 1 stars? Then, the mercenary who stole your mission. Naruto didn't finish his question. The president shook his head. That's not important anymore. Let's not talk about it. Let's talk about the stakes. How do you want to bet? Naruto didn't really want to bet anything. After thinking for a while he said, if you bet that I win, will you teach me your smoke escape technique? The president laughed. If you can learn it, I can teach it to you. But if you want to learn the smoke escape technique, you must at least learn the fire attribute chakra transformation technique. What's the fire attribute chakra transformation technique? Naruto laughed and said, that means you agree? The president was helpless. This bet didn't have any value in her view, but she still nodded. Agree, but if you lose you have to concentrate on practicing your earth release ninjutsu. The power of a ninja comes from their talent. Since you have talent in earth release ninjutsu, you must use it to the extreme. Only in this way can you become strong. How can Naruto not understand this truth? If he was an ordinary person, he would also plan to do this. But in fact he was not an ordinary person. Whether it was the egg in his soul or the human pillar force of 9 tails, this can be confirmed. Also, his soul came from another world. Okay, I agree. The president smiled and said, don't be happy too early. There is a deadline 7 days. If you can't complete it in 7 days, you lose. Do you dare to bet? 04 didn't agree and shouted, President, you are cheating. It's good enough to learn the Earth Release Clone technique in 7 days. How can you have time to study a new ninjutsu? 1 month. At least 1 month. The president disagreed. It's not like he is learning the rock release clone technique. How can it take so long? You want 1 month. But the premise is that he must learn the rock release clone technique first. 04 was so angry that she was speechless. You're too shameless. Rock release clone technique is in AAA ninjutsu. It took me a whole year to learn it. The president opened the door and went out. Only her voice came from outside. 1 week, 1 month, you can choose. Naruto could see that the president was actually trying to improve his strength. In other words, she was trying to motivate him. Sister 04, time is tight. Start teaching me the Earth Release Clone technique. 04 sighed and said, I really think that my idea will work. Why doesn't the president believe me and set such a perverted deadline? Naruto said firmly, I also think it will work. 04 looked at Naruto and said helplessly, but there is not enough time. 7 days to learn the Earth Release Clone technique. 1 month to learn the Rock Release Clone technique. Why didn't she say 1 year to reach the Kage level? Really? 04, who was beaten by the president, was really cute. Finally, she looked like a little girl, not a tough girl who waved her fist and asked others to call her brother. Naruto said with determination, Let's try our best, maybe there will be a miracle. 04 was not encouraged by Naruto. Her eyes rolled and she said with a smirk, No problem. Even if we can't finish it in a week or a month, we can still secretly continue to study it. I believe that it is possible to fuse the Earth Release Clone technique with your Earth Release Clone technique, okay? She did not take the president's words seriously at all. Naruto laughed. Okay. 04 began to teach Naruto the Earth Release Clone technique. With the foundation of the multiple shadow clone technique, Naruto found that it was not difficult to understand. It was just that he had changed the attribute of chakra. In addition, the Earth Release Clone needed to use the Earth attribute chakra to communicate with the real Earth. It was not like the Shadow Clone technique, which was completely composed of chakra. This had an advantage, which was that it could withstand more damage. If an attack of the same degree hit the Shadow Clone would be dispelled. But the Earth Release Clone could withstand it. This was an advantage, but it also had a big disadvantage. Because it was fused with the real Earth, it consumed more chakra. Moreover, it was not as agile as the Shadow Clone technique. You practice first, I'll go get the drink. 04 got up and left. Naruto began to test it. The first time, the earth did not react. The second time, a soft yellow head was buried in the soil like a suffocating person. It opened its mouth and struggled, but in the end, it deflated back like a deflated balloon. The third time, a native that looked similar to Naruto poked half of its body out of the earth. Then with a crack it broke at the waist. The fourth time, a complete statue like Naruto crawled out of the earth. Oh right, 07, I forgot to ask you what you want to drink. The door opened. 04 looked at Naruto in a daze as another native appeared beside him. Although the face was still blurry, but this was indeed a native. You succeeded? Chapter 311. 04 and Naruto didn't tell anyone that Naruto had learned the Earth Clone technique in less than a day. The two of them continued their research, and decided to wait until they finished researching the Earth Whale clone. It failed. When Naruto used the Shadow Clone technique, it was easy for him to transform his clone. However, the Earth Escape clone failed. The reason was simple. The Earth Clone technique was fused with real Earth, while the Shadow Clone technique was a pure chakra. There was a certain difference between the two. But Naruto found that if the Earth Clone technique was small, it could still succeed. For example, a 10 centimeters tall chibi version of 07 could turn into a small Earth Whale clone. But the chibi version could only be used to transport ants. No need to rush, we still have a lot of time, let's take a rest first. 04 brought over some juice, which Naruto drank in one gulp. So refreshing. I suddenly feel like I'm alive again. The two of them had been busy researching the new technique since they came back, and hadn't even had a drink. 04 also gulped down a mouthful of wine. Sister 04, is the guild that stole our quest still there? 04 sighed. Of course, they're still there, they're very strong, so strong that it makes one despair. An existence that could make the guild leader and 04 pale. Could it be Hirako? Hirako had used the Onigiri technique to fuse 4 bloodline limits, so it was understandable if it was really him. Naruto asked, then what's the name of their guild? As long as he knew the guild's name, he could ask Natsuya Sakuragi to look it up. But 04 shook her glass and said something that made Naruto vomit blood. You wouldn't know even if I told you. Naruto had no choice but to act coquettishly. Sister 04, please tell me, even if I don't know, since they've already caused trouble for us, who knows, maybe we'll meet again in the future? That's why you're letting me know so that I can be mentally prepared. Otherwise, I'll feel a little uneasy. 004 drank the last mouthful of juice in the cup, then sighed and said, well, since you want to know, I will tell you. The other party is called Xiao, but we don't know how many people they have. When we saw them, there were only 2 of them, and both of them were wearing black robes embroidered with fire cloud totem. One of them, 07? Are you okay? The moment he heard Akatsuki's name, Naruto spat out a mouthful of juice, then choked and coughed violently. F***K, of all people, why did it have to do with Xiao Shui? I'm fine, cough cough. Cough cough. I'm fine. I just accidentally choked. That cough. Cough. Go on. Seeing that Naruto was gradually recovering, 0-4 continued. One of them is very strange. 03's katana pierced into his body, but the man's body split open, and then a dark tentacle came out and twisted 03's arm that was holding the katana. Dark tentacles? Kakuzu, who has 5 hearts? Then the other person should be Fei Dan, who teamed up with Kakuzu. Sure enough, 04 continued. The other person was even more incomprehensible. When 06 and 07 joined hands to cut off that guy's head, that guy actually put his head back. While in shock, 06 and 07 were not prepared and were directly cut in half by that guy's strange sickle. Fei Dan's undying body. Wait, 06 and 07? The one who took my position? Talking about the past, 04's mood was somewhat depressed. He nodded and said, previously, there were a total of 13 people with the Clown Emperor, but after that incident, 9 people died. 05 joined after that incident and attended their funerals. There were 9 people who joined after 2005. In other words, 05 to 13 died? 1, 2, 3 were crippled, 5 to 13 died. This battle could no longer be described as tragic. No wonder the president's mood fluctuated so violently when talking about that incident. 04 continued. After that incident, at first we thought of taking revenge, but later, as we continued to investigate that mercenary called Xiao, the president didn't allow us to take revenge. A smart choice. The undying duo's strength in the Akatsuki was both high and low. They mainly relied on their undying attribute. Apart from being able to survive, the two didn't have any outstanding high attack spells. The other members of the Akatsuki, Sasori, who turned himself into a puppet. If they couldn't deal with his puppet, then this guy alone would be an army. Deidara, who self-destructed clay, was also in groups, and they could go up to the sky and down to the ground. If they were careless, they would be blown to ashes. Kisame, a humanoid ninja. Chakra was numerous, and the most important thing was that she had a strong sense of combat. Konan was a dangerous woman. That 600 billion explosive tags. Who knows where she got them from? Uchiha Itachi. Needless to say, whether it was Tsukuyomi, Amaterasu, or Susanoo, they weren't existences that ordinary ninjas could resist. Nagato. 6 Paths Pain was able to torture Jiraiya, one of the Woodleaf Sannin, to death. Obito. The ability to turn into nothingness, ignoring physical attacks, and the abnormal dojutsu of teleportation. Right, there was also a Zetsu. Black Zetsu was born from the consciousness of Otsutsuki Kagaya, and White Zetsu merged with Hashirama's cells to create a super soldier from the god tree. Not to mention a mercenary union. Even the underground trading house would have a hard time fighting against it. 04 put down the cup in his hand, and a trace of unwillingness flashed across his lonely face, but it was quickly hidden. Train well, but don't think about revenge. It's impossible. Was it impossible? Naruto suddenly wanted to try. Although Kakuzu was said to be immortal, he only had 5 lives. When the 5 hearts in his body were destroyed, he wouldn't be able to survive. As for Haiden, Naruto wanted to slice him up and study him. 04 suddenly said, 07, learn rock release clone technique first. Naruto asked strangely, don't you want to study Earth Whale clone first? 04 stood up and patted Naruto's shoulder. Wait until you learn rock release clone technique. Improving your strength is the most important thing. Thus, 04 began to teach Naruto rock release clone technique. At the same time, in another training room, Hinata was learning fire clone technique from the president. Hinata learned very quickly. Perhaps it was because of the curse that Chun gave her, but Hinata felt that controlling fire was as simple as controlling her own arm. Thus she learned fire clone technique very quickly. The president exclaimed, I thought that 07's talent was better than yours, but now it seems that you are more outstanding. I have never seen anyone learn fire clone technique in a day, because Chakra's fire attribute is the most violent and difficult to control. Hinata said truthfully, he is much stronger than me. I can't compare with him at all. The president snorted and said, poor girl, when you like someone, all you see is his good points and you exaggerate them infinitely. But in reality, he really isn't as good as you think he is, as outstanding as you think. Hinata stubbornly shook her head. No, he is really outstanding, but I can also see his weakness. The president curiously asked, what weakness? Hinata pondered for a long time whether she should say it or not, then finally gathered her courage and said, fickle. The president couldn't hold it in any longer. With a pft sound, he burst out laughing. After joking around, the president handed Hinata a cigarette. Come, I will teach you smoke clone technique. Chapter 312. He slept all the way until dawn. The exhaustion from yesterday's cultivation had been swept away. Naruto let out a long yawn and looked at the window. On the windowsill, the headless butterfly shiitake mushroom was in a flower pot, trying its best to photosynthesize. Logically speaking, mushrooms couldn't photosynthesize because they didn't have chlorophyll in their bodies. However, the butterfly shiitake mushroom was clearly different from ordinary mushrooms. Under the sunlight, its originally white body looked very green. Or, it wasn't a mushroom at all. It just looked like a mushroom. Naruto observed the head of the butterfly shiitake mushroom. After a night of rest and chakra's free transfusion, the head that was cut off yesterday had grown back a little. Dong, dong, dong. The wooden door was knocked. Zero's voice came from outside the door. Little brother 07, are you up? A good morning, big sister 05. Naruto lazily replied. The president told me to tell you that she's going to take you to the underground exchange's trading area today. Trading area? What kind of place is that? But it sounds interesting. Okay, I got it. Naruto got up and began to get dressed. It was worth mentioning that although Naruto claimed that Hinata was his fiancée, the idea of sharing a bed with her was shattered. There was only one reason, and that was Hinata didn't agree. The president didn't agree either. Fine, in fact, no one else agreed except for himself. Even when he said that he would just hug her to sleep and do nothing, they still couldn't do it. No, it was fine before he said it, but after he said it, the voices of the girls became even stronger. After washing up and having a simple meal, Naruto and Hinata were led to the underground exchange by the president. 04 and 05, on the other hand, were cultivating at home. Part of the reason for 04's actions was because she was stimulated by Naruto's rapid progress. As for 05, the president told her not to let 06 catch up to her, and she became obedient. The three of them went to the underground exchange's winery and turned in the quest. The guild was promoted from 1 star to 2 stars. The president piled up the 1-star mercenary cards and passed them to the staff. The staff member handed the newly customized 2-star identity card to the president with both hands. Would you like to order the uniforms now? The guild leader took the 7 stacks of 2-star guild cards, with a slightly complicated expression. Let's do it. We'll do it the same way as before. After that, bring us to the underground trading area. The staff responded respectfully, then began to arrange on the computer. Naruto took the 2-star mercenary card from the president. This card was very similar to the identity card that Naruto had made. It was almost the size of an IC card, and the one from the underground exchange was slightly longer. The card was made of metal, and on the upper left corner was the name of the union. Behind the name were 2 stamped stars. The grooves of the star stamp were filled with gold, and it looked very high-end and classy. The member's name was on the bottom right corner of the card, symmetrical with the guild name on the top left corner. Code A1028 at your service. A receptionist with the number A1028 engraved on his mask walked in from the side door, and gestured for them to enter. The president stood up and gestured for Naruto and Hinata to follow. The trading area is only open to 2-star and above guilds, so I didn't bring you guys there last time. Everyone followed behind the receptionist, and walked through a 5-meter tunnel that was 2 people wide. At the end of the tunnel was an elevator. The elevator was different from the elevators that Naruto knew because there was no door. The 4 walls were empty, and there was only a circular bottom that hung upwards. The mechanical rollers between the elevator and the track were also visible to the naked eye. To ordinary people, this elevator looked extremely unsafe, but to ninjas, this structure that was convenient for escape was actually safe. The attendant said respectfully, "Please choose the area you want to go to." The president asked, "What time is the auction today?" The attendant said, "There are a total of 3 today. The nearest one is in 10 minutes. The other 2 are at 2 in the afternoon and 10 in the evening." The president replied, "Then let's go to the auction house." The attendant nodded and reminded, "Please gather chakra under your feet and secure your body." The president did as he was told. Naruto and Hinata looked at each other and did the same. Then with a whoosh it felt no different from a free fall. The elevator suddenly fell, and suddenly stopped 5 seconds later. It was their stop. There was a shielding barrier around them, so the perception barrier couldn't work. However, Naruto could feel that the elevator was falling at least 100 meters. This was really an exciting elevator. Naruto looked at Hinata with concern, and found that Hinata was very calm. There was indeed a difference between a ninja and a normal person. The attendant then led everyone through the corridor. When the door opened, the attendant didn't step out. Instead, he bowed and said, "I look forward to serving you next time." The president led everyone in, and their eyes suddenly brightened. The underground space wasn't small, and there was a bar counter in front of them. The receptionist was a very beautiful woman. "Would you prefer a private room or a hall?" The president took out his ID card. Private room, no service required. After entering the private room, Naruto suddenly felt relieved. To be honest, the mysterious underground market made him a little nervous. "President sis, what are we here to buy today?" Naruto looked curiously at the thick gilded booklet in the president's hand. The president didn't open it. Instead, she handed it to Naruto and said, "We're not buying anything. Today we're here to take a look." Look. Naruto took the book that looked extremely noble, and had a very high B rank. The moment he opened it, his Adam's apple couldn't help but squirm. The first 10 pages of the booklet were filled with girls dressed in rags. The title was Auction Assistant. Naruto flipped through the pages. His speed was somewhat slow. Hinata couldn't help but pinch Naruto's soft spot. Naruto cried out, "Why did you pinch me?" "The president told me to look." "Ouch!" The president chuckled and teased. "Then should I call a service for you?" Could he say yes? Hinata directly flipped through the pages. Naruto felt a little regretful. At the back were the auction items. There were ninjutsu, information, and treasure maps. There were also people. There were men, women, and even children. Hinata was shocked. "Why are people being sold here?" The president smiled and said, "This is what I want you to see today. See the dark side of the world. Experience it well. When the auction is over, I'll take you to the arena." Hinata subconsciously held Naruto's hand and asked in a weak voice, "Why are you taking us to see this?" The president calmly said, "Consider it as the first spiritual baptism after joining the guild. You're all very young. If you're an ordinary person, you shouldn't come in contact with this at your age. But, since you've chosen this path, you must first know what kind of path it is. Only then can you better walk down it." The darkness of the world? Naruto wasn't afraid, but Hinata, was it really good to let her come in contact with this? Chapter 313. As the auction went on, Hinata held Naruto's hand tighter. She lowered her head and tried her best not to look at the auction, but she could still hear the voices of the auctioneers on the stage through the speakers. The 14th auction item, a warrior with a 50-game winning streak. In the iron cage in the stands, the elevator rose, and a girl stood on the elevator, surrounded by the crowd. The girl was about the same height as Hinata, and she was about the same age. She stood calmly in the cage and glanced around the stands indifferently. The host began to introduce her 50-game winning streak. The audience under the podium applauded as if praising her courage and strength. The starting price is 10,000 Ryo, and each increase is 1,000 Ryo. Now the auction begins. In the box, Hinata held Naruto's hand tightly. The president took the book and turned to the page corresponding to the girl. "Oh, so she's from the land of lightning. I was wondering why this girl is a bit dark." Naruto subconsciously glanced at it with his perception barrier. It recorded the girl's origin. It turned out that the girl was sold by her family. The girl's mother was a villager from the land of fire, and her father was a ninja from Kimogakure during the Third Shinobi World War. Naruto didn't need to read the story in detail to know what was going on. Are there many children with this kind of background? Naruto couldn't help but ask. The president put down the book and replied, "Many. The ones bought by the underground exchange are only a small part, and many were buried by their families as soon as they saw the sky. So compared to those who were buried by themselves, these people should be considered lucky. Well, it can also be said that they are unlucky." The bidding under the stage was heated. Naruto asked, "There should be exceptions, right? They didn't kill or sell them, but raised them?" The president smiled bitterly. "That might be worse than being sold or killed. I only know one. The child was normal when he was born, but he grew darker and darker. People in the town said that he was a child left behind by the people of Kimogakure and should be killed, but that family kept the child." Hinata's eyes lit up as she praised. "This means that there are still kind-hearted people." The president nodded in agreement and continued, "But the villagers did not accept the child. They did not allow their children to play with the child. They said that the child was a bastard. Over time, the name bastard became a reality. Almost everywhere the child went, people threw stones at him." Naruto raised his eyebrows, feeling that this story was very familiar. "TSK, isn't this the true portrayal of the original Naruto's childhood?" As the memories surfaced in his mind, he felt a little sour in his heart. The president continued, "Later, that child took the initiative to sell himself to a human trafficker, and used that as an excuse to leave the village. After that, he learned ninjutsu and returned to the village and slaughtered everyone in the village." Hinata was silent for a while before she muttered, "I don't believe you. You must have made this story up. Otherwise, how could you know so clearly?" The president smiled and said, "What if I say that person is me?" Hinata firmly shook her head and said, "It can't be Kaisha-sama, because Kaisha-sama is very white, not black." The president was amused and praised, "You listened to the story quite carefully. Not bad. However, this story is indeed true. The main character isn't me, it's Zero, my good sister. She's currently running a hot spring hotel in the Lightning Country. When there's a quest for the Lightning Country, you'll meet her." Hinata stared at the president's eyes. Her intuition told her that the president was telling the truth. Her mood became even more depressed. She muttered to herself, "But buying and selling people is also wrong. They dared to do this in the land of fire. Aren't they afraid that the ninjas of Woodleaf will come and destroy them?" The president asked, "Why would the people of Woodleaf stop them?" Hinata seriously said, "Because buying people is wrong. Looking at the serious Hinata, the president smiled. But as far as I know, in the past few years, Woodleaf came here to buy a lot of people and use them to train Umbu ninjas. If I remember correctly, that organization is called Root. Hinata held Naruto's hand tighter. She suddenly said, "How will you increase the price?" The president was stunned. Then he understood. "You want to auction?" Hinata nodded. The president laughed. "Then what's the difference between you and the other people in the auction?" Hinata seriously said, "I will let her go." The president continued to ask, "Then how will she survive in the outside world? She has only learned how to kill people since she was born. Do you want her to kill people and set fires outside?" Hinata opened her mouth. Her little brain struggled to think of a way. "I can teach her Teach her how to survive?" Hinata suddenly realized that even she only knew how to kill people. "I can teach her to be gentler." The president was amused by Hinata. Being gentler means not killing but only defeating people? Then money will come? Isn't this robbery? Is it wrong to sell people, wrong to kill people, and right to rob? Hinata didn't know how to answer. She looked at Naruto for help. In the spiritual network, Hinata begged, "Naruto-kun, I want to save her." Feeling the warmth from Hinata's hand, and her small hands that were tightly clenched because of nervousness, Naruto suddenly felt that no matter how much this girl changed, she wouldn't turn bad. Because she was too stupid, so stupid that she couldn't be saved. He replied, "All right, I'll get her out." Hinata was surprised. "Really?" Naruto calmly replied, "Really?" Hinata asked, "What about the others?" Naruto pretended to be surprised and said, "You want to save the others too?" Hinata's voice weakened. "Can't I?" Naruto resisted the urge to laugh and replied, "Okay, save the others too." Then Hinata was overjoyed. Naruto couldn't help but ask, "Aren't you going to ask me how to save them?" Hinata said happily, "I believe that as long as Naruto-kun agrees, he will definitely do it." What was this blind wrong and unreasonable trust all about? Naruto was dumbfounded. Sometimes he didn't even believe what he said. However, Naruto did have some ideas about these children being auctioned. "Sister President, I noticed that the price of the girls is much lower than the boys." The president replied, "That's for the average-looking ones. The beautiful ones are several times more expensive." Naruto rolled his eyes. Of course he knew that. The auction was coming to an end and fewer people were bidding. Hinata looked at Naruto with a nervous expression. Naruto comforted her. "Don't worry, I will find someone to save them. But not now, and not by us." Soon, the first person was auctioned off for 23,000 taels of silver by another person in the same room. The cage on the stage was lowered and soon, another person appeared. It was also a girl, but this girl's expression wasn't as cold as the first girl's. Instead, she looked affectionate and took the initiative to greet the audience. The president raised her chin and said, "Look, isn't the most expensive one coming up?" The girl on the stage was bold, passionate, lively, and cheerful. She constantly posed in different poses. The host began to introduce the education this girl received. It could be said that she was proficient in the 4 arts. The host shouted, "The starting price is 50,000 taels of silver. Each increment is 2,000 taels of silver. Bidding begins." Naruto gulped and said to Hinata through the spiritual network, "Hinata, do you want to save this one?" Hinata. Chapter 314. After the auction ended, the guild leader brought the two of them to the second stage of the spiritual baptism, the arena. They had planned to watch a few bloody battles, such as a battle between humans and beasts, or a battle where only one person could survive. They wanted to experience the helplessness of surviving in the arena and the twisted humanity of the audience. However, something unexpected happened. They met an old acquaintance of the guild leader. "Yo, am I seeing things? Isn't this the ugly queen?" The person who shouted was a tall woman who was as tall as the president. She wore a pure white robe, and when she smiled, her willowy eyebrows gave off a seductive charm. That person walked closer and looked at the guild leader exaggeratedly. Then she exclaimed, It really is you. Ah, I heard that you dropped from a 3-star guild to a 1-star guild not long ago. That means, you rose from a 1-star guild to a 2-star guild? TSK, TSK, TSK. As expected of the ugly queen. This guild rises quickly, but please don't sprain your waist too quickly. If you are careless, you will fall back again. Naruto had heard sarcastic words from people, but not many of them were this sarcastic. In Naruto's impression, such people were all dead. He couldn't help but pretend to be surprised and mocked. F***ck. Which pumpkin has become a spirit? Such a big lump scared me to death. Naruto's words were like a bolt from the blue. His shout was full of vigor and moved people's hearts. Instantly, it attracted the attention of many people around them. Pumpkin has become a spirit? Many people were amused by this novel metaphor. The woman turned her head to look at Naruto. When she saw the mask on Naruto's face, she suddenly froze, and then laughed out loud. I say, ugly emperor, you're really looking for men. You're not looking for men, but you're looking for men now? Naruto frowned. What's so funny about this? Seeing the woman laughing so hard that she was about to cramp up, Naruto couldn't help but say, Hey old woman, is there something wrong with your brain? Or, are you actually a man? You wanted to join in the past but were rejected, so you are holding a grudge? When he said that, Naruto's gaze moved down. This time, it was the president's turn to be amused. She's not a man. She's just too involved with men. That's why I didn't agree to let her join us in the past. Let's go. Ignore her. However, to everyone's surprise, the woman stood in front of them again. Originally, there were 13 people, but now there are only 2 left. Why are you still acting so mysterious? How can you face your dead sisters? Actually, I'm very curious as to how you managed to survive. Could it be that you were scared by the enemy and ran away halfway? Then I really feel bad for them. They must have been blind to follow someone like you. Did this woman eat **T in her mouth? Why did it feel like his mouth was full of shit? Naruto's mood worsened when he saw the president's body trembling with anger. When the people around heard the woman's words, they began to whisper to each other, talking about these trivial things. Hinata was also not used to hearing this. She stood in front of the president and affirmed, President is not that kind of person. The woman continued to mock, Little girl, you just joined, right? Let me give you a piece of advice. Be careful when you do things. Don't be cheated and count money for others. The president finally got angry and shouted, Enough! Disappear from my sight immediately. Otherwise, you can stay here today. The president's aura exploded. The woman opposite him lost her momentum, and even subconsciously took a few steps back. However, she straightened her neck and took a few steps forward. She continued to mock. What? You're not happy with a few words? You want to touch me? I'm now a member of the White Feather Guild. Try touching me. The president stared at the woman in front of him and suddenly grinned. Okay, I'll touch you. Let's see if the big tree behind you can give you shade. Just as the president was about to make a move, the staff of the underground exchange rushed out and respectfully bowed to the 2 of them. He slowly said, 2 sirs, please don't be angry. Since this is the arena, why don't you go up and fight? Naruto originally thought that the person who came was there to mediate the fight. He didn't expect. What was even more surprising was that the person who spoke didn't have any signs of cultivation. Chakra didn't react at all in the perception barrier. He was a normal person. However, it was this normal person that calmed the 2 sides who were about to fight. Naruto couldn't help but sigh. The underground exchange was still the most powerful. The president said, Okay, let's go up and take a stroll. Do you dare? The woman opposite him lost her momentum. However, she didn't forget to mock. The ugly queen wants to go up to the arena? Even if you're not afraid of embarrassing yourself, I'm afraid of you. Why don't you use your people to fight? I just took in a pretty good girl today. Why don't you send one of your people too? My member of a 3-star guild and you, the president of a 2-star guild, are of the same level. It's not unfair for you, right? The woman waved her hand, and a girl with slightly dark skin walked out from behind her. What a coincidence. This girl was the one that Hinata was clamoring to save. The president glanced at the girl and replied, Of course it's not unfair for me. I'm the one who's climbing up the social ladder. However, you want a normal person to fight with my members? You don't cherish your subordinates at all. The woman retorted. Although she's a normal person, her ability to kill is not weak. I wonder if your two new members have blood on their hands. When the time comes, when they see their intestines being pulled out of their stomachs, they'll be scared to death. Oh right, as for the bet, we don't have to bet on life and death. We'll bet on you kneeling down. How about that? If I win, you kneel down. If you win, I'll kneel down. The president looked at Hinata. Hinata felt the president's gaze and took a step forward. It was obvious that she was going to go up to the arena. Was Hinata's hands stained with blood? This was really unbearable. In the previous mission to support Sanin, Hinata had knocked everyone unconscious. Later, Naruto swept around and gave everyone another stab. I'll go. Naruto spoke first. But I don't want to fight with this little girl. I want to fight with you. Also, kneeling down is child's play. If I win, your life is mine. If I lose, my life is yours. Do you dare? Before the other party could speak, the president spoke first. Nonsense. In her opinion, Naruto was a genius and the future hope of the guild. How could she bet her life with him just because she was angry? However, when the president panicked, the other party became interested. She clicked her tongue and said, TSK, I couldn't tell. Are you having an affair? I was wondering why the ugly queen agreed to let a man join her mercenary group. Looks like she's keeping a pretty boy. Little boy, take off your mask. I want to see what the little boy that the ugly queen likes looks like. Naruto praised himself. Of course it's a handsome and elegant man. The woman smiled and said, what an interesting little boy. Even I can't help but dote on you. Then, she said to the staff of the underground trading house, arrange a match for me. I want to fight with this little boy. The staff looked at Naruto. Do you agree? The president stared at Naruto. Naruto pretended not to see and nodded. Yes. Go and arrange it. Chapter 315. Naturally, there was no lack of betting in the arena. Fortunately, Naruto's odds were 1-3-5. To put it simply, those who bet on Naruto bet 10,000, and if he won, he would get 35,000. There was still half an hour before the start of the match, and Naruto was already eager to give it a try. President, how much money did you bring to bet on me? You will make a lot of money. Compared to Naruto's self-satisfaction, the president's face was very gloomy. Do you know that the higher the odds, the less likely it is for you to win? Naruto shook his head and said, No, the higher the odds, the more I will earn. However, Naruto himself was a bit hesitant about whether he should bet or not. Naruto didn't have much money on him, but he could go back to the snow country to get it at any time. As long as he wanted, he could even move the snow country's treasury. Of course, it was unrealistic to move the treasury. When the betting amount reached a critical point, the odds would be reduced. Also, it was too eye-catching. But a small bet was still possible. He remembered that Hinata had a lot of money on her, so he contacted Hinata through the spiritual network and said, Take the money with you. Hinata replied, And the 10 million you gave me is with me. The 10 million was the money Naruto gave to Hinata after he summoned Hinata to the snow country. However, 10 million was a bit too much, and it was easy to attract attention. Half. But he was a bit unwilling. Although Naruto was not short of money, but as the saying goes, if you don't take advantage of it, you will be a bastard. Before you go on stage, you can bet 5 million, and then before the bets are closed, you can bet another sum. After communicating with Hinata, Naruto looked up at the odds displayed on the screen. If only the odds could be higher. This sentence was heard by the president, and he couldn't help but ridicule. You can go for a physical examination. If the exchange determines that you are only 12 years old, then the odds will increase a few more times. Naruto's eyes lit up. You can do that, the president said in annoyance. I say, you really don't know the situation you're in. Do you know who you're up against in a while? Naruto was unconvinced. I'm the one who defeated you. Don't be so unconfident in me, okay? Although I don't want to argue with you about this, I'll tell you this seriously. I didn't use my full strength when I fought with you because I didn't want to kill you. Secondly, you were only able to win last time because you had the advantage of the arena. However, take a look at this place. The ground here is made of steel plates, and the arena is also made of iron. You can't use your earth escape technique at all. Tell me, how are you going to fight me? Naruto was stunned. Lowering his head to look at his feet, he stomped hard. The thick iron plate made a faint sound. It was at least 1 centimeter thick. It was the same above his head. There was no exposed soil in this house. It was indeed a little difficult to deal with, however. Naruto was not in despair. He was confident that he could deal with the other party even without using Earth Escape. He said confidently, "Even so, I'll still win." Then, why don't we make a bet? The president was so angry that he laughed. If you lose this match, you won't even be alive. What's the point of winning? Don't complain about being lucky. The rules set in the arena are not to be broken. Otherwise, the underground trading house would send out a mission. No matter where you go, someone would catch you to fulfill the bet. Naruto shrugged and did not say anything. When it was time to go on stage, the president suddenly said, "I've bet all my money on you. You have to survive." Naruto looked back and smiled. However, he did not get angry. He said in a sly voice, "Don't worry. When the time comes, you'll only complain that you didn't bring enough money." The president's expression was still serious. "Don't die. By the way, what was the bet you wanted to place?" At this moment, the host in the arena shouted, "Let's invite Clown Emperor Mercenary Guild 07 onto the stage." Naruto ignored this and walked back. He said slyly, "If I win, let me be the president." The president was amused. He looked at Naruto and shook his head helplessly. "You look very confident?" Naruto said affirmatively. "Of course I have to be confident." The host in the arena raised his voice an octave and shouted, "Let's invite Clown Emperor Mercenary Guild 07 onto the stage. Come onto the stage immediately." Naruto still ignored the host. He looked at the president and waited for his reply. The president shook his head. "I can't give you the position of president, but I can give you the position of vice president." The vice president was originally 07, but she can't fight anymore. So the position of vice president has always been vacant. Vice president? That's not bad either. Naruto smiled and said, "It's settled then." Then he finally went on stage under the host's murderous gaze. After Naruto left, the president went to place his bets with Hinata. With the mask on, the president couldn't see Hinata's expression. He blamed himself. "I'm sorry, it looks like I shouldn't have brought you guys here today." Hinata nodded seriously. "That's true. This place isn't fun at all, but it's not too bad either. At least we can still earn some money." As she said that, she passed the banknotes to the betting window. Ding-ling. A string of numbers popped up on the screen. The person behind the window said respectfully, "Please confirm the amount and press the confirm button." Hinata pressed the button. The president didn't look at the numbers that popped up on the screen. He was still blaming himself. Hinata comforted him. "Don't worry, Naruto will win." In the arena, after Naruto went on stage, the entrance to the iron cage was closed. The moment the heavy iron door closed, there was a shocking clang sound. This was a very large sun-shaped iron cage. There were 2 entrances on both sides. In the middle, there was also an iron gate that separated the 2 contestants. After the contestants entered the cage, they stood on both sides of the iron gate. When the contestants entered the arena, the audience cheered. The host started to introduce the 2 contestants. When the woman was introduced, her identity as a member of a 3-star mercenary guild caused another round of uproar. When introducing Naruto, the host talked about the Clown Emperor's background as a 3-star mercenary guild. He also mentioned the tradition of only accepting female members and not male members. Finally, he pointed out that Naruto was a male. This introduction was enough to whet the audience's appetite, but as the person involved, Naruto, was a bit annoyed. The host roared, "Why would a guild with such a deep background and unique rules suddenly accept a male member? Is there something special about this male contestant? Or is the clown emperor really at the end of his rope? Let's wait and see. At this moment the annoying woman said, neither. Actually, this man is the clown emperor's gigolo. After this sentence was shouted out, whistles rang out in the venue one after another. Naruto's old face was as black as the bottom of a pot. What a F** King Gigolo. Go F** King Gigolo. Naruto connected to the woman's body through the pseudo-mental link and said in a low voice, I originally didn't plan to kill you. In my plan, there were some other things that I wanted you to do. However, you can't blame others for seeking death. If you have a next life, remember to keep your mouth shut. The woman was shocked by the words in her mind. At this moment the host shouted, the match begins. Clang. With a loud sound, the iron gate between the two of them slowly opened. Naruto's killing intent was transmitted to the woman's mind through the pseudo-mental link. At this moment, the woman suddenly felt as if the gate to hell was opened instead of the iron gate to the arena. Behind the gate was a mountain of corpses. Chapter 316. The pseudo-mental link was actually a primer for illusions. The lowest level illusions use sight, hearing, smell, touch and taste to confuse the opponent. The more advanced ones use mental power to influence the enemy's mind. Naruto's mental link was actually a relatively advanced type of illusion primer. Thus, when Naruto had the intention to kill, Naruto's immense mental power had the effect of intimidating the enemy. This was also the reason why the woman had the illusion of seeing a mountain of bones. An illusion attack? Haha, impatient men are not liked by girls. The woman's mind was in a bit of a trance, but she quickly woke up, thinking that Naruto had used an illusion attack on her. Her right hand reached behind her back and pulled out a small folding fan from her waist. Then, as the iron gate slowly rose up, the fan suddenly flapped. A wind blade flew through the gap between the iron gate and slashed towards Naruto's neck. Naruto's familiarity with the wind attribute chakra could be said to be as close as flesh and blood. It was an experience gained through the use of his body. The moment the wind blade swept past, Naruto's body moved to the side before he could even think about it. Next, he pulled out a quail egg-sized square stone from his pocket. This stone was not made of chakra. It was a real stone. Below the stage, the guild leader's eyes widened when she saw the stone. She said in disbelief, "No way. What was that stone?" As the guild leader, she knew better than anyone else. That was the stone that 04 used to create her rock-break doppelganger. Just like how her smoke doppelganger relied on a special type of smoke, this stone was a similar method. Its effect was to make the doppelganger stronger. At the same time, it was also a means of self-defense. Its purpose was to create a geographical advantage in an environment where there was no land. Or, it could become a weapon, or an armor. Naruto had grown to the point where he could use rock break? No. Perhaps Naruto was only using it to transform it into a handy weapon? But honestly speaking, a weapon transformed from rock break, its effect was not as good as one forged from real steel. Thus, this technique was somewhat useless. With this thought in mind, Naruto on the stage moved. He threw the stone out. The speed was very slow, and it drew a big arc in the air. It was like a naughty child throwing a stone. At this moment, the huge expectations caused the president to feel as if she had found a boyfriend, only to discover that he was actually a beggar who couldn't even feed himself. In the arena, the woman was also shocked. She jumped far away even after the stone was thrown at her. He thought it was a dangerous attack. But 5 seconds later, the stone was as quiet as a shy virgin in a bridal chamber. The iron gate had already risen to the top. Naruto apologized. "Sorry, my hand slipped." Below the stage, there were already sounds of abuse. Those people had bet on Naruto, hoping that Naruto would win. The woman was ashamed of her nervousness. Then he rushed towards Naruto. He crossed over the rocks. At this moment, the rock that had been ridiculed and endured patiently finally moved. In an instant, it turned into a spear and aimed at the woman's back. The change was very fast, and there was even a piercing sound. The woman easily dodged with the wind evasion body blink technique and mocked. "This is your technique? Interesting, but this little bit of cleverness is not enough. Before she could say the word enough, there was wind behind her ear. The woman activated the wind evasion body blink technique to the extreme. While dodging the second attack, she turned around to look. She discovered that the spear had unknowingly turned into a fierce tiger. It opened its mouth and madly pounced towards her. Its aura was strong and fierce, and its movements were even stronger than a normal tiger. This was Naruto's rock beast clone Rock Tiger. Below the stage, the president, who was originally disappointed when he saw the stone turn into a spear, his disappointment once again turned into hope. Seeing that the opponent had easily dodged his attack, he felt a bit of regret. It wasn't that Naruto's attack didn't hit, but that Naruto didn't have enough time. He thought that if he had more time to grow, the battle in front of him would definitely be different. But immediately after, when he saw the stone spear turn into a tiger, the president couldn't stay calm anymore. All the regret was instantly replaced by shock, and he couldn't help but say, "How is this possible?" This kind of feeling was like finding a boyfriend, finding out that the boyfriend was a beggar, and then finding out that the beggar actually had the world's richest man as a father. The huge psychological gap was more exciting than bungee jumping. He turned to Hinata and said, "Could it be that my eyes are playing tricks on me?" On the contrary, Hinata was very calm and said calmly, "Naruto will win." In the Colosseum, Naruto took out a storage scroll and unfolded it. Pieces of stones shot out and turned into different beasts and rushed out. Naruto developed a rock release ninjutsu based on the rock beast clone, 100 Beast Migration. Well, it was currently a weakened version. After all, in Naruto's view, only 100 beasts could be called 100 beasts. Now the number of beasts that Naruto can control is only about 20. A group of rock beast clones turned into beasts and pushed towards the woman. The fan in the woman's hand fanned wildly, but the wind blade only left a shallow white line on the beast's body. In the end, the woman couldn't escape and jumped on the cage. The beast hit the cage, and the entire stand was trembling. The woman attacked Naruto from the cage. She got close and then put the wind blade against Naruto's throat. "I have to admit that your ninjutsu is a bit difficult to deal with, but you lost. From today onwards, your life is mine." Naruto was very calm, ignoring the fan on his neck, and said with a smile, "Is that so?" The next moment, Naruto's hand hugged the woman. Then Naruto's face changed and turned into a stone man, and his body flowed and tightly imprisoned the woman. Clearly, this was a rock escape clone. "It seems that the loser is you and not me." A stone elephant walked over, and the elephant's stomach split open like a cesarean section, and Naruto climbed out of the elephant's stomach. "Okay, you can die now." With that, the rock wrapped around the woman began to shrink. The woman wailed and shouted, "You can't kill me. If you kill me, you will also die. You are poisoned by me." The rock wrapped around the woman paused. "Poison? Is this for real?" Naruto checked his body's condition. The woman shouted, "I added poison in the wind blade. Even if the wind blade didn't hit you, you will be poisoned by the air you breathe." Scheming. Naruto checked his body's condition, and there was indeed a poison reaction. But because it was just inhaled, the poison wasn't too deep. Naruto controlled Chakra's scalpel to separate the infected cells from the normal cells, and at the same time used medical ninjutsu to suck out the poison. Naruto's neck split open, and smelly blood gushed out, then healed. The whole process was as easy as yawning. "Okay, thank you for your timely reminder. Now do you have any chips? If you don't, then I will send you on your way." The woman saw the process of Naruto expelling the poison. The woman opened her eyes wide and shouted, "Impossible. My poison can't be expelled so easily." The rock clenched, blood sprayed out, and all the shock and disbelief disappeared at this moment. Naruto calmly said, "There is nothing impossible with me." The bloody scene stimulated the mood of the audience, and the short silence was followed by a wave of cheers. The host was also stunned for a moment before he announced, "The winner is the winner. Clown Emperor 007. Cheer. Let's shout. Let's welcome a new generation of warriors. Today, we must remember this name. 007, who uses ninjutsu like magic." No one expected that because of this competition he would gain a new title in the underground market, Magician 007. Chapter 317. After winning the bet, Naruto prepared to step down from the stage. The cheers below the stage did not make him feel any joy. In his opinion, those hysterical cheers were morbid, boring, and the venting of negative emotions by a group of people who had been oppressed by life. And he was just a passerby in this arena. He did not want to pay for their negative emotions. But when Naruto walked to the edge of the cage, Naruto sent a rock snake clone to collect a few strands of that woman's hair for him. Objectively speaking, apart from that woman's mouth, Naruto felt that this woman was quite interesting just from the perspective of battle. Plus, he really needed someone who knew about the underground exchange. After stepping down from the stage, Naruto ignored the host's enthusiastic urging to stay, and went to the president. "President, I came back alive and won the battle, so your promise," the president smiled and said. "You keep your word. The position of vice president is yours." Naruto beamed with joy. After waiting for a while, seeing that the president did not say anything else, he could not help but ask, Just one sentence and it's done?" The president thought for a moment and said, "There's nothing else. When you go up later, I'll imprint the vice president's logo on your identity card, and it'll be done." Naruto asked, "Then what benefits and privileges do the vice president have?" The president looked thoughtful and said, "Food and lodging, water and electricity are all free. Isn't that enough?" Naruto's face was numb. Uffed. The president suddenly thought of something. "Oh, that's right. There's another thing. The vice president has the right to take on missions at the underground exchange on behalf of the president, or take on 2 different missions with the president." "There's nothing else this time." The president shook his head, then asked, "What other privileges do you want?" Naruto thought for a moment and said, The guild's business as the vice president. I have the right to intervene, right?" The president nodded and said, "Sure, that's not a problem." Naruto's eyes lit up. "Then can I also arrange for the guild members' accommodations?" The president's face darkened and he refused. "It's impossible to sleep in the same bed as Little Six. You beast, just give up." Naruto laughed awkwardly and said, "I was just joking. Really." Next, everyone went to collect their winnings from the bet. At the same time, he asked Hinata through the mental link, "How much did you bet?" Hinata happily replied, 30 million. Puff. Cough cough. Cough cough. Naruto almost choked on his own saliva. He asked again, "How much did you bet?" 30 million taels? Where did you get so much money?" Hinata said timidly, "You gave me 10 million taels, and I borrowed 20 million taels from my father when I ran away from home. And I borrowed it. I was thinking that a person would definitely need money to go out alone, so..." Naruto blinked. After all this time, Hinata was the rich one. Even if he didn't give Hinata money, Hinata wouldn't lack money herself. "Do you want banknotes or a transfer?" 3.5 times 30 million taels. That was 105 million taels. She was a billionaire. This was no longer a small sum. It could even compete with the annual income of the Snow Nation. Of course, it was the annual income of the past. "Transfer." Naruto answered for Hinata. In the mental link, Naruto asked Hinata, "Does the president know how much you bet?" Hinata replied, "She probably doesn't know. At that time, the president was quite worried about you and kept looking at the stands from afar." The president was worried about him? Naruto was a little ashamed, but not showing off one's wealth was also a good virtue. Naruto asked the president, "Sister President, how much did you bet?" At this time, the president looked distressed and sighed. "If I had known, I would have brought 04 and 05 with me today." Then her small eyes sparkled. "I bet 5 million taels for a big meal tonight." "Only 5 million taels? So little." Under the mask, Naruto and Hinata looked at the president with pity. That day, after returning to the guild, the president treated everyone to a big meal. 04 and 05 complained incessantly when they found out that they had missed such a good opportunity to make money. At the dinner table, the president said to 04, "You're not bad. You know that 07 learned the rock clone technique, right?" 04 smiled sheepishly. Heh. Heh. Didn't I want to tell you after 07 and I finished researching the new technique? The president nodded. Okay, you guys continue researching. Anyway, my bet is that you guys finish researching the new technique. Before that, I won't lose. Naruto raised his hand at this time. Reporting to the president, we've actually already researched it. The president's face immediately fell. After dinner, the president gave Hinata a break, so Naruto and Hinata held hands and went to the roof to look at the stars. At the dinner table, only the president and 04 were cleaning up. 04 opened his mouth several times and then closed it again, as if he wanted to say something but stopped himself. The president was impatient and said, "If you have any questions, just ask. Stop hemming and hawing. Have you been possessed by 05? Little 5 pouted and protested innocently. 04 took a deep breath and said, "Just now you said that you want 07 to be the vice president. Isn't this too hasty?" The president poured himself a cup of tea and watched the tea leaves float in the teacup. Do you think he's not qualified enough to take on such an important task? 04 looked at the president and said, "It doesn't matter if you're the vice president or not, but after all, the clown emperor is your blood and sweat. We don't know anything about 07's past identity. I'm just worried that you, 07's identity." In fact, she had been thinking about this since she came back from the underground market. She remembered that after 07 went on stage, 06 said, "Naruto will win." So Naruto was 07's name. Then, should she look into this name? The president looked at the tea leaves floating in the teacup. After a while, he sighed in relief. The clown emperor is no longer the clown emperor of the past. Now we can barely be regarded as a 2-star guild. How can we be remembered by others? 04 said seriously. No matter how the clown emperor looks to outsiders, it still represents our home. Home. The clown emperor of the past gathered a group of homeless people. Therefore, when they gathered together, they were family. The smile on the president's face relaxed again. Now it's also our home. 06 and 07 are good children. 04 rolled his eyes. I didn't say they weren't good children. Anyway, you know what you're doing. I've taught 07 before. Although I'm a little jealous of this guy's talent, I don't dislike him. He's improving his strength very quickly. Of course, he's qualified to be the vice president. The president cut her off. Okay, I know what you're trying to say. I believe that 01 won't be sad if she knows that someone has taken her position. Instead, she'll be very happy. At the mention of 01, 04 seemed to be on the verge of tears. She was a little depressed and her eyes were watery. The president took 04's hand and said, "We sisters haven't slept together in a long time. How about I sleep at your place tonight?" 04 shook her head resolutely. "No. My bed isn't as big as yours. If you want to sleep, you'll sleep at yours." The two of them looked at each other and smiled. 05 pouted and said, "You don't want me anymore?" The two of them were amused by 05's words. On the roof, Naruto hugged Hinata. The two of them leaned against each other and looked at the stars in the sky. "I really want to hug you like this forever." Naruto felt a little lazy as he smelled the faint fragrance coming from Hinata's body. Then he was a little puzzled. But, is it because I've been with the president for too long? I feel like you also have the smell of cigarettes on your body. Hinata looked up at the sky. Do I? Naruto sniffed. A little, but it's very faint. It's not bad. Chapter 318. At night, Naruto returned to his room and left behind a clone, while his main body returned to the snow country. He took an unruly ninja from the prison cell at the foot of the snowy mountain, and revived the woman from the gladiator arena during the day. Welcome back to this world. The second underground floor of the Snowy Mountain Laboratory, Room B001, which was specially built for the Edo Tensei. It was worth mentioning that this floor was made up of honeycomb-shaped rooms. Based on the importance of the important people, they were divided into 3 levels: S, A, and B. The S level contained Naruto, Hinata, all the 4-star card holders, the Sakuragi sisters and Fatty's resurrection materials. Currently, there was only one A level. Room A001 Haku. The first B level. What's your name? Naruto recalled that the name displayed on the screen in the gladiator arena was Sister Hana. Sorry, but Naruto didn't want to call this person sister. The woman gradually regained consciousness. When she saw Naruto, she was no different from any other person who had just woken up. However, after being suppressed and recognizing reality, she became obedient. Naruto's explanation was also very simple and crude. He raised his blue-sleeved sword and directly separated the woman's left arm from her body. There was no blood spilling. The woman's separated arm turned to ash, scattered, and reassembled itself. The woman looked at her own hand in shock and couldn't say anything for a long time. An illusion? That was the only explanation. But she could sense that her will wasn't affected. She was very clear-headed, unprecedentedly clear-headed. Naruto put his blue-sleeved sword away. To put it simply, you're already dead. I used a forbidden technique to revive you in this world. Now I want to make a deal with you. If you agree, you can continue living. If you don't, Naruto took out a talisman. I'll use this to erase your consciousness, then have you work for me for a while. After all, reviving you would have wasted a living person. Human life is so precious that I can't waste its value. But don't worry, after this body of yours reaches the end of its lifespan, I won't revive you again. Now let me ask you, what's your name? Are you willing to work for me? The woman clenched her fists and hesitated. Naruto urged, you have 5 seconds. If you don't answer me, I'll take it as a denial. Naruto picked up the talisman in his hand that erased spiritual intelligence. Was the situation in front of him an illusion or reality? The woman panicked. However, she did remember that she was killed by that person called 007. 5. 4. The woman suddenly said, my name is Mo. I'm willing to work for you. Naruto revealed a sincere smile. You will be glad for the choice you made today. Naruto took out a 1-star card and handed it over. Drop your first blood on it. Mo raised his hand and bit his finger. His finger was bitten but no blood flowed out. The wound turned into ashes and quickly recovered. Naruto took out a small knife and handed it over. Use this. Your body has already transformed into a different life form. Normal methods won't be able to extract your blood. Mo took the small knife and made a cut on her finger. This time there was no ash. Instead, dark red blood flowed out. The amount was very small, only at the cut. The blood dripped onto the card. Little Gunny's voice entered her ears. Host binding successful. Scanning host's body data. Basic data panel generated. You can check it yourself. 5 minutes later, the beginner's tutorial was completed. She didn't accept any missions because her mission panel was empty. It showed special identity. Mission assigned by the administrator. Mo looked at Naruto in shock. Everything she experienced just now felt unreal. That thing that called itself a system was really unbelievable. Sir, what do you want me to do? Mo was trembling with fear. Naruto looked at this well-behaved woman. He found that after throwing away her ridiculous arrogance, this woman became cuter. At least she wasn't annoying. How long have you been in the underground market? Mo replied seriously, 18 years. 18 years? That's so long. This woman is 23 or 24 at most. 5. Naruto continued. Then you should know a lot about the underground market. The first mission I want you to do is to establish your own mercenary guild. I will help you to promote to a 3-star guild. The underground market was a good place. Naruto planned to infiltrate it. Of course, before he had absolute power, acting blindly would bring unknown dangers. Thus, Naruto planned to take things step by step. He would first nurture a few forces of his own. When Mo heard Naruto's words, her expression changed. She was in disbelief. You mean, you want me to become the guild leader of a 3-star guild? As someone who had been in the underground market for 18 years, she knew very well how valuable a 3-star guild was. Naruto nodded. Mo became excited. If someone had said this to her in the past, she would have scoffed and ridiculed them for overestimating themselves. However, someone who could bring her back to life. Someone who could take out a mysterious card that she couldn't understand. In her mind, this sentence was true. What do you want me to do? Naruto didn't know what to do. He could only pretend to be deep in thought. He tried to guide her. You can handle the matter of registering a 1-star mercenary guild, right? Emo nodded. I can do that. Naruto nodded and continued. Then, I will continue to provide you with this kind of card to help you nurture your own forces. Mo's eyes lit up and she agreed. Okay. With this kind of card, within 10 years, no. I will definitely be able to create a 3-star guild within 5 years. 5 years? That's too long. Naruto interrupted her. I want you to achieve this goal within 1 year, or even shorter. Emo said awkwardly. Although this kind of card is very magical, it also takes time to nurture people. You should know that unless the original guild disbands, people who already have guilds will not join other guilds. This was indeed a problem. Naruto had to put in so much effort to bring Hinata out. It wouldn't be easy for other guilds. Moreover, even if the other guilds were lax in their control, it was hard to say if they were willing to come. Unless, they killed that person and then resurrected. This method was more sinister, but there should be no lack of powerful scumbags in places like the underground market. Wasn't this getting rid of evil for the people? Naruto smiled. You have a powerful enemy, right? Tell me, I will help you get rid of him, and then resurrect him to be your subordinate. How about that? Emo was excited. Yes, the guild leader of the Clown Emperor. Naruto was stunned. Pfft. Naruto wasn't wearing a mask and his voice didn't change. It was normal that Emo didn't recognize him. But, logically speaking, shouldn't she take revenge on 07 who killed her? How big of a grudge was there between these two women? Naruto was a little curious and couldn't help but ask. You and her, what kind of grudge did you have? Emo became depressed. My best friend died because of her, so she must die. I tried to join her guild and then find an opportunity to kill her. Unfortunately, I didn't succeed. But I won't give up. What else could Naruto say? The rich circle was so messy. It was hard to tell who was a good person and who was a bad person. But perhaps there was no such thing as good or bad under hatred. Let's change. I think it's more meaningful to take revenge myself. Naruto had a serious expression. Chapter 319. Because Naruto's Earth Whale clone had finished its cultivation, the next day, the president brought Naruto to accept a mission that was very suitable for this move. The mission to find Orvanes. It had to be said that this mission was very suitable. In just a week, not only did they perfectly complete the mission, but they also found 2 more iron mines. But there was also a little accident. Naruto's clone had developed self-awareness. Main body, I don't want to disappear. Please keep me by your side. I may have suffered a lot, but I will do whatever you ask me to do. Really? Naruto looked at the earth whale in front of him with a dumbfounded expression. Although he had felt that his clone was a little strange in the past, he did not expect it to be this strange. In the spiritual network, Naruto asked for help in the public area. My clone says that he doesn't want to disappear and wants to stay by my side. What should I do? Waiting online, it's quite urgent. Gurney shouted. Stay together. Stay together. Stay together. Naruto said seriously. Don't mess around, I'm serious. Then Naruto changed the image to the public chat area. So everyone saw the chubby earth whale asking Naruto to stay by his side in a naive manner. After watching it, Gurney sighed and said, This is true love. Little Gurney agreed and said, True love +1. Even Big Gurney, who had always been serious, stood with the two and replied, Stay together. At this time, Haru Sakuratani was looking at the ninja shop out of boredom. After watching the video of Naruto's costume, she asked, Is this a self-directed shoot? Natsuya Sakuraji scolded. You can tell? Don't you know that it's better not to expose people's difficulties? Besides, Naruto is just teasing us. At this time, we have to make surprised and happy expressions. As she said that, she looked in the mirror and sent her joyful smile to the public chat area. Haru Sakuratani nodded in realization. then copied Natsuya Sakuragi, and sent the same smiley face. In the public chat area, little gunnies, big gunnies, and little gunnies were all smiling in amazement. Naruto's little face darkened. He stressed with a tired heart, "I'm telling the truth. Why doesn't anyone believe me?" Hinata, who had been spying on the screen for a long time, finally spoke up and said, "I believe you. I also believe in Big Brother Naruto," Little Gunny said in a perverted manner. Following closely behind, Gurney said, "I believe it too." Big Gunny is below. +1 Haru Sakuratani and Natsuya Sakuragi stood in a row with the others, expressing their belief. Naruto sighed. "You guys still don't believe me." Hinata wanted to say that she really believed him, but she was led astray by Lu Cheng and could only worry in her heart. In the sealed space of Ninetales used his spiritual link with Naruto to size up the earth whale. He muttered to himself, "This guy is very similar to Shikaku. Is it related to Naruto's fusion with Shikaku's soul power?" The earth whale was anxious when it saw that Naruto did not speak. He begged again and again, "Main body, please say something. How about you give me a few more days? Let me feel the clear wind, the lingering water, the beauty of the mountains, and the growth of the trees again?" Naruto was at a loss. Is this his avatar? The way he spoke. What a show-off, he didn't resemble him at all. "Main body, I'm begging you, okay? It doesn't take much to maintain my chakra. I can shrink to the smallest state. Please give me a chance. I will definitely become your most loyal guard." "No, you're so great. You don't need a guard. I'm just your most loyal servant, your pet, your pug woof, your cat meow. Please, I'm begging you, Naruto." What a cheap avatar. Is this really his avatar? Seeing that the avatar was about to speak, Naruto quickly raised his hand and interrupted. "Stop. Let's sit down and straighten it out first." The earth whale avatar straightened its body, bent its back 90 degrees, and sat in front of Naruto in a dignified manner. Naruto still felt a little confused. Where were we just now?" The earth whale avatar immediately nodded and bowed. "You said let's sit down and straighten it out." At the same time, the earth whale controlled the soil and sand to prepare a chair for Naruto. It wasn't a chair, but a dragon chair that Naruto remembered the ancient emperors sat on. It was very imposing, and the carvings were exquisite. It definitely wasn't the kind that was made with cheap special effects. Naruto sat on the dragon chair. This feeling of being respected was not bad. No wonder so many people wanted to be the emperor. Do you want to stay outside a little longer?" Naruto asked, and the avatar immediately replied, "Yes, of course. It would be even better if I could stay by your side forever. I will definitely do my best to fulfill all the duties that a pet should have." Naruto facepalmed. When did you start thinking about staying?" The avatar respectfully replied, "Just now when I burrowed out of the ground, I felt that this world was extremely beautiful, so beautiful that I couldn't bear to leave. I had an urge to stay in this world, even if it was just to look at it quietly." "Look at it quietly? Could it be any more sour? Do you think you're an Amarok?" Naruto complained in his heart. The earth whale avatar lowered its head pitifully and looked at Naruto. Naruto was very tired. Naturally, it wasn't a big deal to leave an avatar behind. But if all his avatars were like this in the future, that kind of scene, just thinking about it made him shudder. At this moment, Ninetales said, "Let's keep it for a while. I feel that this guy is quite interesting, and I want to observe it for a while." Ninetales wanted to keep this guy? Naruto voiced his worries. "But if the other avatars are like this in the future, what should I do?" Ninetales thought for a moment. "I think this has to do with the fact that you've kept this avatar for a week." Naruto asked, "You mean, not releasing the avatar for a long time gave it a personality?" Ninetales sat up, and his foxtail swayed gently. "Not entirely, it should also be related to your soul power. Your soul power has already reached a level that ordinary people can't reach. If you can use Genjutsu, with your spiritual power, you should be comparable to the Sharingan." Naruto frowned. "Then according to what you said, the Sharingan can also have its own thoughts." Ninetales narrowed his eyes. revealing his snow-white teeth. He seemed to be smiling. Have you forgotten the hand you planted in the flower pot? That hand will escape by itself. Naruto was taken aback. Ha, so, that's really possible. Ninetales continued. In fact, I have a hunch that your avatar will have this kind of situation. When you tricked Jiraiya in the Woodleaf Chunin exam, I had a hunch. But your avatar should still have room for evolution. You can try to integrate with the chakra of the other 7 guys. I have a hunch that something very interesting will happen. The other 7 guys? 7-tailed beasts? Naruto hesitated. But there's only one sharp corner left on the pentagram? The last attribute I plan to integrate with the Ein attribute chakra. Ninetales smiled and said, the pentagram. When you don't know, it has become a hexagram. Chapter 320. 5 points turned into 6 points. Naruto's thoughts landed on the giant egg, and he saw a standard 6-pointed star. 4 of the sharp corners of the 6-pointed star were entwined with golden threads. Among the 4 golden threads, 2 were the most dazzling. They should be the yang attribute obtained from Ninetales, and the magnetic release from one tail. Ninetales said, you can try fusing with Nibby. She's good at a special fire release. Let's see if a golden thread can appear. Just fire release? Given the nature of this golden thread, apart from the fusion of Ninetales' yang attribute, the other attributes would only appear in the Kekii Genkai. The Kekii Genkai was the result of the fusion of the 2 chakra attributes. But what did that mean? At the end of the day, what exactly was chakra? Naruto had flipped through the history files of this world. Although there was no record of Kagaya Otsutsuki devouring the fruit of the Tree of God, it was recorded that during the Warring States period, there was no such thing as chakra under the samurai world power system. In other words, chakra appeared after Kagaya Otsutsuki devoured the fruit of the Tree of God. The Tree of God was a tree planted by the Otsutsuki family from an alien planet to plunder the vitality of this world. From this point of view, chakra was the external manifestation of life on this planet. It was the power of this planet. Or rather, the rules of the world? Kekii Genkai, Kekii Genkai, Kekii Genkai. It was the essence of the world's power from being scattered to being gathered. It could also be said that it was the path from a mortal to a god. And the chakra of the 9-tailed beasts is the closest thing to the existence of God, stripped from the body of a god. In that case, if he could fuse the power of the 9-tailed beasts together. Main body, say something. Hearing the clone's pleas, Naruto snapped back to reality. Well, you can stay here for now. Perform well. The Earth Whale clone was overjoyed, followed by endless praise. Naruto's mind at this time was focused on fusing the attributes of the other tailed beasts, and was not in the mood to listen at all. He said casually, shrink into. Naruto suddenly thought of the idea of raising a husky in the past. But he felt that Shiba Inu was a better match. Turn into a Shiba Inu. The shape of the Earth Whale had shrunk from a rolling, chubby whale to a chubby big-faced Shiba Inu. His body was yellow, his face and belly were white as snow, and his eyes were round. At first glance, he looked like a pushover. Naruto subconsciously raised his hand and touched the little Shiba Inu's head. So hard. He withdrew his hand in disappointment and turned to leave the martial arts field. As soon as the door of the martial arts gym opened, Naruto found Hinata waiting outside. Chick, what's the matter with 006? Hinata shook her head. No, I'm just a little worried, so I came to take a look. Naruto recalled that he had talked about his doppelganger in the public chat. Then did Hinata come here? Because she was worried that he had gone crazy? Naruto regretted it. If he knew that she wouldn't believe him, he wouldn't have said it. Oh, I'm fine. I'm this dog. This was no longer his doppelganger, right? If he called his doppelganger a dog, it would feel weird. I kept it for practicing the rock release doppelganger. That's it. Well, I'll go find the president and discuss the next mission. Naruto turned and walked toward the president's room. Naruto felt a little uneasy. Hinata didn't roll her eyes at him just now, did she? If she saw it, she would think that he was chatting with her. In that case, she would really think that he was a fool. Should he explain? But the more he explained, the worse it would be. Naruto braced himself and walked toward the president's room. The Shiba Inu didn't know what Naruto was worried about, and the original body didn't connect with him mentally. After seeing Hinata, the first thought that came to his mind was, "This is my wife." This was the influence of Naruto's original memory of the world. Later, he changed it to the girl that the original body liked the most. Since that was the case, as an excellent pet, it had to display its utmost flattery. As a Shiba Inu, how to please its mistress. Naruto's original memory told him a way, which was to wag its tail. The key point of wag its tail was to wag its tail quickly. It was to show its closeness to its mistress. So the Shiba Inu's tail swished like an electric fan. Who had seen a Shiba Inu with a tail swinging like an electric fan? Hinata didn't see it. She looked at the dog with amusement and said, "You're the doppelganger that doesn't want to disappear, right?" Seeing that Hinata knew about it, the Shiba Inu thought that the original body had told Hinata about it, so it obediently barked and wagged its tail harder. Hinata squatted down and stroked the Shiba Inu's head. She praised, "You're so cute." The Shiba Inu was very excited. The mistress praised it. Then it had to work harder. For some reason, a helicopter's propeller popped out of its head. One tail turned into three, fixed into a propeller, and rotated. Buzz, 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 the Shiba Inu rose into the air. At this time, Naruto had turned the corridor and walked into the president's room. "President, let's go to the country of thunder for the next mission." The president was blowing smoke rings. "Why do you suddenly want to go to the country of thunder? Are there any good missions there?" Naruto nodded repeatedly. "There's a mission similar to finding mineral veins. It'll be easy to do." Mineral veins mission. The president's interest was piqued. This week had been too comfortable for them. They played cards, drank tea, and chatted in the belly of the earth whale. They didn't have to do anything because Naruto took care of everything. "Okay. Let's go to the country of thunder. We'll leave tomorrow." It was a very simple answer. Naruto was relieved. If they went to the country of thunder, they would be out of the Wood Leaf sphere of influence. They wouldn't have to worry about encountering Wood Leaf's ninjas at any time. That was one of the reasons. Secondly, there were 2 human pillar force in the country of thunder. He wanted to try fusing with Nibi and Hachibi. After leaving the president's room, Naruto heard Hinata giggling in the corridor. What was so funny? One must know that Hinata rarely smiled like this. Naruto walked back and turned a corner. Damn it! A Shiba Inu was flying. Wait, the Shiba Inu. Could it be his? It could only be his. Even if there was a Shiba Inu in this world, it couldn't fly away. Even a ninja dog couldn't do that. Naruto linked to the Shiba Inu. "What are you doing?" The Shiba Inu replied flatteringly. "As a pet, I'm just making my mistress happy." What a strong reason. Naruto actually forgot what to say for a moment. Moreover, Hinata was indeed laughing happily. Naruto braced himself and walked over. This dog. Naruto wanted to pretend that he was controlling it to make Hinata happy, but he told the truth. "This dog is the clone that I said I didn't want to disappear." Chapter 321. Country of Lightning, the Clown Emperor's Hot Spring Hotel. The same setup, the same layout, gave Naruto the illusion that he hadn't left the country of fire at all. "You're here. Is there any interesting mission in the country of lightning?" Unlike Naruto's expectations, not only was 01 not black, but he was also very fair. After Hinata greeted the other party, her small eyes stared straight at the guild leader's back. Her meaning was self-evident. "Where's the story you were talking about? Where's the little black kid you were talking about? Liar. Big liar." The guild leader pretended not to see and warmly greeted 01. "There is indeed an interesting quest. However, before we talk about it, I'd like to introduce our new member, little friend 007, Zhang Xian said with a smile. "Don't be fooled by his height of 1.7 meters. This guy will only turn 13 in a few months." Naruto bowed again. 01 greets big sister 01. Hearing Naruto's voice, 01 looked at Naruto in surprise. Then, under Hinata's wide-eyed gaze, he pressed down on Naruto's chest. She said in disbelief, You're a boy. Naruto said with certainty, I'm a boy. The president cleared his throat and coughed. That the situation is like this. This little boy and little six are an unmarried couple. Little six joined us first, and then I generously accepted him as well. That's it. Naruto despised him. Bullshit. In order to join, he had to go through a very harsh test before he was reluctantly accepted. If it wasn't for his talent, he would have been kicked out long ago. 01 nodded absent-mindedly. Then he looked at Naruto's clothes, which were clearly different from the others. Then why isn't he wearing the team uniform? At the mention of the team uniform, Naruto's face couldn't help but darken. 04 and 05 covered their mouths, trying to suppress their displeasure. The guild leader smiled and said, well, because of my carelessness, there was an accident. You know that our guild was originally made up of girls, so I told the people at the exchange to follow the original plan. This 04 couldn't hold it in any longer. PFFF. Then he laughed out loud without a care for his image. Even 0 and 5 laughed. The president also wanted to laugh, but he tried his best to hold it in. His face was flushed red as he said that his team uniform is also made into a female version, so it doesn't fit well. 0 laughed. The guild leader couldn't help but laugh as well. 04 imitated the way Naruto had put on the team uniform that day and said, that. President sis, did I send the wrong message? Are the buttons on the back? I can't buckle it myself. Pfft. The president spat. Under the mask, Naruto's face was even redder than a monkey's butt. That day, when he woke up in a daze, the president asked him to put on the team uniform. The most unbearable thing for Naruto was that bastard Kyubi sent a video of him wearing women's clothing to the shared chat area in the form of a memory. Little Gunny and the others were laughing like crazy. Is it that funny? Everyone's body continued to twitch. The most exaggerated one was 005, who was almost lying on the ground. Hinata was still the best. Hinata didn't laugh. Naruto turned to look at Hinata. Hinata was trying very hard to hold back her laughter. From her red neck, it was obvious that Hinata's face was as ugly as his. Naruto sighed and said, laugh it out. Don't hold it in. Hinata held back her laughter and shook her head. I'm not laughing. However, 005 came over and scratched Hinata's itchy flesh. Then Hinata's defense system collapsed. When everyone caught their breath, 10 minutes had passed. However, it wasn't that they didn't want to laugh, nor that they had laughed enough. They didn't dare to laugh because their stomachs hurt from laughing. So, they tried their best to control themselves. However, Naruto's temper rose. Didn't they want to laugh? They had to laugh. So Naruto began to tell everyone a joke. The battle lasted for another half an hour. 007. I swear I'll never talk about you wearing female clothes again. Really? 005 was the first to beg for mercy. I'm going to die because of you. I'm laughing so hard that it hurts. I won't talk about little 7 wearing female clothes either. Spare me. 001 said. I swear, if I mention little brother 007 wearing female clothes again, I'll laugh myself to death. 005 said. I also swear. But before the oath was finished, 004 giggled. She was laughing at 001. It hurts to laugh. 001 Jieja, you're making me laugh. Naruto's face darkened as he imitated the sound of a chicken. Cluck, cluck, cluck. Laugh. All of you keep laughing. Then the girls changed to a sincere version of the apology, so Naruto stopped teasing them. Then he talked about Naruto's ability and the mission he accepted this time. To find a unique lightning gem vein in the land of lightning. After talking about the mission, Naruto said to 001, 001, Jieja, do you want to have a left arm that you can move? Inside the perception barrier, Naruto could clearly see that 001's left arm was a lifeless artificial limb, and it couldn't move. This is also the reason why 001 gave up her ninja career. After all, most ninjutsu require hand seals. Losing one's hand is almost equivalent to losing all ninjutsu. The heated atmosphere suddenly quieted down with Naruto's question. 004 glared at Naruto, then looked at 001 with worry. 001 was slightly surprised, But she didn't show any displeasure. She smiled at Naruto and asked, "A moving artificial limb? I've never heard of such a thing." Naruto made up a story and said, "I accidentally saw it in the wood leaf. Someone invented a moving artificial limb. If you need it, I'll bring you one the next time I come." 001 smiled brightly. "Okay, then I'll have to trouble you, little 7. 004 breathed a sigh of relief seeing this. She was afraid that 001 would get angry because of talking about her lost arm. Then everyone had a big meal, then arranged their rooms according to their accommodation in the Land of Fire. During the night, Naruto and Nine Tails began to plan. Nine Llamas Sensei, this time is different from last time. Nine Tails' identity as the human pillar force cannot be exposed, and neither can my identity as Naruto. Under this premise, do you think we can successfully obtain Nibi or Hachibi's soul force? Nine Tails sat cross-legged on the ground, his left hand supporting his chin while his right index finger tapped on his thigh. With your current soul force, it shouldn't be difficult to invade the other party's spiritual world. After all, you only need to invade the human pillar force's spiritual world. After invading, you'll have to come into contact with those two guys. This shouldn't be difficult. You just need to taunt them a bit and make them attack you. This way, their chakra will come into contact with your soul force and you'll succeed." Naruto nodded, but he still felt that it wasn't reliable. Nibi and Hachibi's human pillar force were both recognized by the human pillar force. They could use all the power of the tailed beasts. And Ninetail's power couldn't be used to avoid exposing his identity. He also couldn't use Ice Escape. Using Earth Escape to fight head-on? Naruto thought for a while and sighed. "I feel the plan to come to the Land of Lightning was a bit impulsive." Ninetails thought for a while and agreed. "It does seem a bit impulsive. Why don't you try learning illusions? With your spiritual power, I think it's more reliable than using Earth Escape." Naruto said in disbelief. "Learning and applying? Are you kidding me? I'm going against the human pillar force. Not a primary school student." Ninetails tilted his head. "Who's a primary school student?" "Naruto." Chapter 322. Land of Lightning, Kumogakure. This is a country built on a stone forest. The so-called stone forest is a forest composed of stone mountains. Tall or short, fat or thin, their appearance is different. From a distance, they are straight and slender, but from a close distance, they are towering and imposing. They are like stone pillars that reach the sky. The houses of Kumogakure are built at the tip of these stone forests. Each and every one of them resonated with each other from a distance. When the earthen yellow stone mountains connected together, these houses seemed to be floating in the air. It was a magnificent sight. Naruto stood in the distance and looked at Kumogakure. In the perception enchantment, a group of Kumogakure ninjas returned from the outside. Naruto jumped down from the tree, and his body melted as soon as he landed, just like a ginseng fruit that fell to the ground. 5 minutes later, the ninjas of Kumogakure rushed back. Naruto found the right time, and directly invaded the person's body with spirit transformation jutsu. The whole process was completed in minutes and seconds. In the eyes of outsiders, the person just dozed off and there was nothing unusual. But in fact, when the person woke up from his doze, the will controlling the body was replaced by Naruto. Half an hour later, Naruto successfully mixed into Kumogakure. Next, it's time to inquire about the news of Nibi and Hachibi human pillar force. Coincidentally, when Naruto followed the team to the Reikich's office building and handed in the task, he happened to meet one of them. Nibi human pillar force's 2 Yujito Nibi. She was a girl who was 1.7 meters tall. She was tall and slender, and when she walked, she was as quiet as a cat. However, what made Naruto more concerned was that her hair was wrapped in a white cloth strip, leaving only a tuft of hair at the end, which looked like a lion's tail. She was a delicate woman. She even put on eyeliner and red rose lipstick. Naruto was about to continue looking. The 2 Yujito Nibi turned their heads after feeling Naruto's gaze. Seeing that Naruto was still staring at them, they frowned and said impatiently, "Hey, what are you looking at?" Naruto smiled calmly and said, "There is a hair on the corner of your mouth. and it's about to go into your stomach. The two Yujito Nibi froze, raised their hand and touched it, and there was a hair in their mouth. At this moment, Naruto's companion pinched him with her hand. Naruto turned around. It was a girl. Naruto was familiar with this scene. In the past, when he looked at other girls, Hinata's hand would reach out and pinch him. This girl likes this boy. Naruto made a judgment in his heart. After completing the mission, Naruto was called by his teammates to leave Reikichi's office building. Before leaving, Naruto looked back at the two Yujito Nibi again. They were also here to hand in the mission. After leaving, the girl who pinched Naruto scolded. "That's Yugi-sama, how can you look at her like that?" How should I answer? Naruto only knew that the more he spoke, the more likely he would make mistakes, so he smiled and waved his hand. "If there's nothing else, I'm going to buy something to eat." The girl stared at him and came over like a follower. "I'm going too." Naruto politely refused. "Don't you want to go home and take a bath first?" The girl insisted. "I'll go home and take a bath after eating, it's your treat." Naruto. At the same time, in a nameless ravine in the land of lightning, Naruto's doppelganger was leading the team to look for Orvain's underground. The Shiba Inu needed to transform into the earth whale because of the mission, and it pulled the team to rummage through the earth. In the belly of the earth whale, several girls were sitting together on a sofa, with a square table in the middle, playing poker. The president complained. "It's been a week, right? We still haven't found the lightning gem mineral vein. Could it be that the mineral vein is really extinct?" Naruto's doppelganger said. "If it was easy to find, the mission wouldn't have been posted at the underground trading house." The president nodded. "That's true." Then he played his cards, a pair of fives. 04, who was beside him, held her cards tightly, and her eyes lit up when she saw a pair of fives. "I'm a pair of sixes." Following that, a pair of twos was played. 05 scolded. "Aya, President, you're letting them go again. You could have put up the order." The president replied. "What's the point of putting up a pair of twos? They're both king of small and king of small. Two is the daddy, no matter how you play, you'll still lose." Then it was time to shuffle the cards and start the next round. But when the cards were shuffled, Hinata suddenly said, "Wait, Sister 04, you're hiding your cards." 04's hand, which was about to sneak into the pile of cards, froze. But she reacted quickly, planning to press her hand down first and then deny it. But the president wasn't slow either. He grabbed her hand and said, "Tisk tsk tsk little girl. Hiding cards tsk, tsk tsk, you're promising. Tell me how you're going to be punished." Trying to hide cards under Hinata's eyes, 04 couldn't think straight. Naruto shared his vision with his doppelganger and watched the scene in front of him with amusement. On the other side, Naruto was still wandering around with the girl. The girl ate wherever she went, her mouth never stopping. He paid for everything, but of course it didn't matter. After all, the money wasn't his. What he cared about was when the girl would leave. "Well, it's getting late." The girl's cheeks were puffed up like a little hamster. She looked up at the sky and nodded. "Is it too early?" Then, she continued to follow beside Naruto. Naruto couldn't chase her away tactfully, so he could only say directly, "Isn't it time for you to go home?" The girl's mouth was still full. She replied, "Yes, it's time for me to go home. I'll be leaving then?" Naruto nodded repeatedly. The girl took a few steps and then retreated. "Aren't you going to send me off?" Naruto said half-heartedly. "I was just about to go home." The girl blinked. "That's perfect. Our houses are in the same direction." Naruto. After sending the girl home, Naruto happened to find this body's house. The house was quite big, and it was all empty. Naruto walked around and found a mourning hall. The parents of this body were enshrined in the hall. Simply put, the person under Naruto's control was a lonely person whose parents had both died. But with just this little bit of information, it was far from enough to not be discovered by others. Naruto's thoughts sank into this body's mind. In this body's mind, a weak soul was being imprisoned in a cage by Naruto. Naruto said with a stern expression, "Have you thought it through? Will you cooperate with me or die?" The person looked up at Naruto and said in an even colder voice than Naruto, I will never betray the village. No matter what you want to do, I won't let you succeed. This wasn't the first time Naruto had communicated with this person. So Naruto wasn't surprised by this guy's answer. He put on an act with a cold expression and transmitted the scene before him to the spiritual network's public chat area. What should I do in this situation? Can someone give me some advice? Do I have to torture the body I'm controlling? Also, are there any methods to read memories? Teach me, I'm in a hurry. Chapter 323. Threaten him. If he doesn't obey, turn him into a eunuch. This was the unreliable Guni's suggestion. But the key point is, Naruto is now controlling this body, and this method always feels like castration. Even if he knows that the knife won't fall on him, it's easy to leave a psychological shadow. Therefore, this trick was not taught to Naruto, and it was abolished. Threaten his family. If he doesn't listen to you, kill all his family members. This was the aggressive little Guni's suggestion. But if his family members are dead, what can he threaten? How about using the little girl to threaten him? Naruto tried, but it still didn't work. The man's answer is Karu, which is the girl's name. As a ninja, he has long been prepared to die for the village. It had to be said that this was a very ninja answer. Don't waste any more time with me. If you are a ninja, rely on your own means to achieve your goal, otherwise, I will only look down on you. Very stubborn. Naruto looked at the man seriously and said calmly, As you wish, since you want to try, I am happy to accompany you. The man said calmly, This is what my father taught me before he died, and I am proud of my father. Naruto didn't say anything more. Without the man's cooperation, Naruto can't do anything. He just doesn't want to use it. Taking advantage of the night, Naruto wandered a few times in the wild forest near Kimogakure, found several poisonous herbs that damaged the brain, and made a simple poison, and drank it. Then he controlled the man's body to go home and sleep. Life is so precious. Why don't you people know how to cherish it? Naruto closed his eyes. The next day, when the man woke up again, he was already in the hospital. His eyes were blank and lifeless. Pretending to be sick? No, he's really stupid. Brain nerves damaged, memory loss. No information? It doesn't matter. Then he can become a fool and start over. The next 2 weeks of hospitalization observation. Naruto began to gradually control the man's body to comply with the doctor's examination and act like a normal person. After being discharged from the hospital, Naruto began his own plan and began to investigate Second Last and the Hachibi Human Pillar Force. Finally, he set his sights on Second Last Human Pillar Force and the 2 wooden puppets. That was because the Hachibi Human Pillar Force was often with Reikage while the Second Last Human Pillar Force was often alone. However, there was also a small accident. Naruto's stalking was discovered. Are you following me? The 2 Yujito Nin, who had been lost, suddenly appeared behind Naruto. The hook in his hand rested on Naruto's neck. How was he discovered? Naruto had been tracking from a very far distance, and Naruto had also rebound this body with a summoning card, so that he could borrow the perception barrier provided by the system to pay attention to the enemy's movements at all times. Turn around. Behind him, the 2 Yumu people scolded. Naruto slowly turned around. Speak. Why are you following me? Don't quibble. I found out long ago that you were following me. You found out long ago? That's troublesome. Naruto looked at the 2 Yujito Nin. At such a close distance, Naruto discovered that the 2 Yujito Nin's faces were a little small and exquisite. They had typical palm-sized faces and their rose-colored lip gloss looked very sexy. Naruto suddenly had an idea. He deliberately stuttered. The 2 Yujito Nin hollered. What about me? Hurry up and tell me. How did you graduate from the Ninja Academy? Did Reikage ask you to follow me? Naruto waved his hand, looking a little flustered, and his face was a little red. No. I'm following you for my own reasons. The 2 Yujito Nin asked. What's the reason? Naruto seemed to have mustered his greatest courage, and took a deep breath before exclaiming loudly, I like you. Well, this is Naruto's way of thinking in an emergency. The advantage of this method is that he can even follow the two Yujito nin openly in the future. The two Yujito nin were shocked by this answer. Naruto shouted very loudly. The passers-by in the streets and alleys heard it. No matter which world or race one was in, there was no need to be afraid of things getting out of hand. For a moment, there were people who cheered, whistled, and even clapped their hands and cheered. The human pillar force of Kimogakure is different from the wood leaf. The human pillar force in wood leaf was hated by everyone. But here, whether it's Nibi Yujito or Hachibi Killer Bee, they have many supporters who love them. Here, they are the heroes who protect the village. What did you say? Do you dare to say it again? After the two Yujito nin recovered, the shame on their faces disappeared, and was replaced by arrogance and indifference. There was even a hint of threat in their tone. Naruto shouted, I like you. I don't know why, but I feel familiar at first sight. The whistles around became louder. Someone cheered. Good boy. You have guts. I support you. The shouting slogan made the two Yujito nin's face even colder. Naruto looked at him with a sincere face, and there was a look on his face as if he was facing death. The two Yujito nin raised their hands and grabbed Naruto's shoulders, then sent Naruto flying with a big windmill, and said without any politeness, You're too weak. Naruto was put down in a fight, and the whistles around him became hissing again. The two Yujito nin jumped away like a cat. At this time, someone recognized Naruto, or to be precise, recognized the person controlled by Naruto. Isn't this Naruto? He said as he came over and helped Naruto up. Naruto also recognized the other party. The other party was a female medical ninja of Kimogakure. He had seen her in the hospital. What happened to Naruto just now? Didn't you lose your memory? Naruto pretended to be stupid and said, I think I know that girl in the past and I like her very much. The female medical ninja shook her head and laughed. Everyone knows Yugi-sama. This is not surprising, but you actually confessed to Yugi-sama. Well, I found that you're quite cute after losing your memory. However, as far as I know, during the days when you were in the hospital recovering, another girl came to see you every day. I think you should talk to that girl. Well, although she's cute, don't do stupid things again. Fortunately, Yugi-sama didn't hit you hard, or you would have to go to the hospital for a while. The medical ninja checked Naruto's physical condition, and left after confirming that there was no problem. Naruto was relieved. As for the girl mentioned by the female medical ninja, it was Karu. It's just that she should be on a mission these days, or she would definitely be by his side now. Naruto's heart for a while, there was a trace of sympathy in his heart. Not sympathy for Naruto, but sympathy for the girl. Or, after using this body, I'll cure him and give him back to the cute girl? It's impossible to completely cure him, but it's just memory loss. After this idea arose, Naruto sincerely praised himself. I'm really a good person. Chapter 324. The day after the confession incident, Naruto knocked on the door of the two Uchihan early in the morning. When the two Uchihan saw Naruto, they looked a little unhappy. You're too weak. If you don't want to be beaten up badly, don't come looking for trouble. Naruto took out the medical record issued by the hospital, and said with a sincere expression, I'm really sorry about yesterday. In fact, I lost my memory because of some things, so I don't remember a lot of things. The moment I saw you, I felt extremely familiar. I thought we knew each other. The two Uchihan stared into Naruto's eyes. Naruto looked back at them with a sincere expression, and raised the medical record high with both hands. The two Uchihan took the medical record, and casually flipped through it. After confirming that Naruto was telling the truth, their expressions suddenly improved a lot. They said, Then I should apologize. Before the two Uchihan could finish, Naruto frantically waved his hands and said, No, it's my fault. How could you be wrong? However, after losing my memory, I don't even remember my own name, but I still feel that you're very familiar. I think that in the past, I must have respected you very much. No matter how many times he tried, flattery would not work. Naruto's flattery made the two Uchihan's faces smile. However, the expected scene of them inviting him to sit in the house didn't happen. It was a pity. That I'll leave first. Sorry to disturb you. With that, Naruto bowed deeply again. Then he turned around and left. Ask me to stay. I'm so pitiful. I even lost my memory. Shouldn't you take pity on me and invite me in for a drink? Naruto prayed in his heart. 1 step, 2 steps. Naruto left, until the sound of the door closing behind him sounded. Naruto let out a long sigh. Phew, failure. It wasn't a failure. It could only be said that it was half a success. At least, they talked a little, right? And it changed the first impression. Originally, Naruto had another plan, which was to chase the 2 Uchihan crazily until the 2 Uchihan left the village to do missions out of boredom. But this plan, after Naruto's consideration, the possibility of annoying the 2 Uchihan away was almost zero. The probability of them beating him up was 80%. So Naruto gave up this plan. What should he do next? Naruto stood on the suspension bridge, which was connected to 2 rootstone mountains. The wind blew through the bridge and made it tremble a little. The suspension bridge was more than 10 meters above the ground. Those who were timid wouldn't even be able to take a single step on this bridge. Naruto walked on the bridge. It was slippery because it rained last night. The bridge was still wet. Looking down from the suspension bridge, he felt that the wind between the 2 mountains had gotten stronger, and the bridge was swaying even more violently. Because of the poisoning and amnesia, Naruto was given a 7-day recuperation leave. After 7 days, his captain will come back, and he will resume his ninjutsu training. He's still 7 days. In these 7 days, what can he do? Naruto looked down the bridge. 2 chipmunks attracted Naruto's attention, and he subconsciously leaned forward a lot. The 2 chipmunks were fighting over a big nut. He didn't know if it was because the nut was too delicious, but the fight was very fierce. At this time, the 2 Uchihan's voice suddenly sounded. Hey, do you want to jump down and commit suicide? Naruto was startled, his foot slipped, and his body leaned forward. For ordinary people, falling is inevitable, but for ninjas, they only need to inject chakra into their feet to stabilize. But Naruto had an idea. Why not just fall down like this? With the 2 Uchihan, they shouldn't watch him fall to his death. This way, he can play the beauty saving the hero. Perfect. Of course, it's also possible that they won't save him. If they really watch him fall to his death, then it's okay, they can just change the plan. So Naruto fell. Falling 1 meter, the 2 Uchihan didn't make a move. 2 meters, 3 meters, the speed is getting faster and faster. Naruto dutifully continued to perform. The panic, confusion, and disbelief on his face were perfectly displayed. Even if his face is facing the ground, even if the 2 Uchihan's point of view can't see him at all. 6 meters to the ground, 5 meters, 4 meters. Naruto was ready to die. In his heart, he couldn't help but curse. Falling to his death on his face, won't it leave a psychological shadow? 2 meters, 1 meter, half a meter. The 2 chipmunks on the ground saw him, scared off the nuts in their hands, and ran away. The next step would be to smash his head into mush, right? But at this time, suddenly something pulled his ankle. Naruto felt like he was playing bungee jumping. Before his face hit the ground, the pulling force from behind pulled him up again. Exciting. At the same time, he was relieved. The 2 Uchihan finally made a move. You're really useless. You don't even know how to use chakra? Naruto was pulled back to the bridge, Naruto's little heart thumping. This is not an act. Although he knows he won't die, this free fall without safety protection is still scary. Sorry. I don't remember. The 2 Uchihan looked at Naruto speechlessly. Why are you apologizing to me? I'm not the one who almost died. Naruto quickly changed his words. Thank you very much, thank you for saving me. The 2 Uchihan shook their heads helplessly and prepared to walk along the suspension bridge. Naruto got up from the ground and hurriedly chased after them, then looked like he wanted to say something but stopped himself. The 2 of them walked for a long time, and the 2 Uchihan finally couldn't help but ask, "What else do you want to do?" Naruto said seriously, "You saved my life, I want to thank you." The 2 Uchihan waved their hands and said, "No, I can save a lot of fools like you every day." Naruto wondered, many people will fall from the bridge? The two Uchihan shook their heads and said, "No, you're the only fool who fell from the bridge." The two Uchihan continued to walk forward, and Naruto continued to follow them. He still looked like he wanted to say something, but stopped himself. The two Uchihan were a little impatient, and the people around them were pointing at them more and more. Especially when yesterday's incident has already spread throughout Kimogakure. "What do you want to do? If you want to thank me, don't follow me, or I'll throw you off the bridge again and pretend I didn't save you." Although it was a harsh word, Naruto heard that the other party was not really angry. Her ears were a little red, because she was embarrassed by the words of the people around her. The onlookers who didn't know what happened whispered, "That kid is walking with Yugi-sama. What's the situation?" The person next to him said with a face full of gossip, "Maybe that kid did something shocking again, or our Yugi-sama will never look at such a bad guy." The ant next to him was carrying a chicken. "Bad? I think that little guy is very handsome, white and clean. That girl Karu-Tian is sticking to him." Everyone looked at him again. Sarui is a rare white-skinned person in the land of lightning, and he's really a little handsome. In front of the two Uchihan, Naruto said, "I want to ask you to give me some advice." "Huh? Advice? I've heard of people asking for favors, but I've never heard of the opposite. You want me to give you some advice? I'll beat you very badly." The two Uchihan intended to scare away the guy in front of them, but she underestimated Naruto, who was possessed by a masochist. Naruto said loudly, "It doesn't matter. I'm not afraid." The two Uchihan raised their hands and pressed on Naruto's shoulders, and directly threw him away. "Then from now on fly." Chapter 325. The first windmill, the second windmill, and the third gale. The two Yukinin thought that after making things difficult for this guy a few times, he would back down due to his cowardly personality. But she soon realized that she was wrong. The guy ran back again, but this time he fell into the chicken coop. His body was covered in chicken feathers, and he looked extremely weak. But his eyes were more determined. "Why do you want me to teach you?" The two Yukinin stared at the dusty Naruto, trying to find an answer from his eyes. Naruto answered foolishly, "Because I only know you, and you saved my life." The two Yukinin did not know how to respond to this answer. "You're the only one I know." This sentence sounds so sad. As for the last sentence, she did not understand. She asked, "I saved your life, and you want me to teach you? What kind of logic is this?" Naruto's eyes became more serious and determined. "Because I want to become stronger, so that I can repay you in the future." The two Yukinin wanted to say that he did not need any repayment, but when the words reached their mouths, they could not say it. After all, she was not a heartless person. If she was, she would not have won the love and respect of the villagers. But she did not know that at this time, there was another person in Naruto's mind giving orders. In the spiritual network, Director Guni came on stage. "Look more sincere, don't stare at people. Your eyes must be gentle." "Yes, that's it. Be gentler, very good." "You must have the feeling of a stray cat meeting a new master." Naruto interrupted. "What is the feeling of a stray cat meeting a new master?" Guanai explained. "First of all, you have to be cute. Looks are the most important thing, and this body of yours is still passable. Second, you have to be pitiful, desolate, and miserable. Only then will you be able to evoke the sympathy of a young girl. Third, with your acting skills, you just have to achieve the first 2 points. Very good, maintain this expression. Don't raise the corners of your mouth, bend it down a little, but not too much. Pay attention to your eyes. Don't look away, just stare into her eyes. When men lie, their eyes wander, but it's the opposite for women. You're acting as a man now, so staring at her will make you look more sincere." Naruto stared at the two Yuten and couldn't help but complain. "Have I played a woman before?" Guanai smirked. "Although you haven't done it yet, you can try it in the future." Naruto was just about to mock him when Guanai shouted, "Watch your eyes." Due to the lack of time delay in the spiritual world, time was much longer than in the real world. While Naruto and Gunny were talking for a long time, only a blink of an eye had passed in the real world. Naruto's pitiful expression was very well done. and no one knew if it was really effective. 12 seconds after the two of them looked at each other. Just as Naruto was about to give up, the two Yumu people finally said, "Come with me." Success? 5 minutes later, the two Yumu people brought Naruto back to the suspension bridge. Jump down. If you jump down, I might not go back to save you. If you dare, I'll take care of you. For others, this test was extremely strict. After all, one's life was on the line. However, Naruto was not afraid. Just as Naruto was about to jump down happily, Gunny shouted, "Wait! Don't jump down immediately. That'll only make you look like an idiot. You have to hesitate, you have to be hesitant, you have to cherish life, you have to show your desire to live. Only then, when you choose to jump down, your emotions will be more sincere. Only then will it be more convincing, and it will be more effective to poke into people's hearts." Was it that complicated? With a successful case study, Naruto asked dumbly, "What should I do?" Director Gunny appeared again and instructed, "First, hold the rope of the suspension bridge firmly, and show your impulse to jump down. Then step over firmly, but when your eyes look down, you have to hesitate. Your heart must beat faster." Naruto followed Gunny's instructions, and firmly pressed on the rope of the suspension bridge. He flipped over the rope, and stood on the outside of the suspension bridge. A gust of wind blew, and the suspension bridge swayed. The moment Naruto lost his footing, he subconsciously tightened his grip on the rope. Gunny praised, "Very good. Very good. The acting here is on point." Naruto's heart pounded. He replied sincerely, "Nonsense, I was really startled by the damn wind just now." Being startled by sudden weightlessness was a human instinct. It was the same principle as waking up from a dream of falling from a great height. Guanai encouraged him, "Keep it up. Look down." Naruto looked down. 12 meters? Or higher. The owner of the body that Naruto controlled was only as strong as Chunin. If he fell from a great height without any protection, he would definitely die. Naruto looked down at the ground. The two Yuki puppets looked at Naruto. Gunny instructed, "Bend your legs slightly and act like you're jumping down." Naruto did as he was told. "At this time, say a line. I believe that you will not let me die." Then jump down resolutely. Naruto followed Gunny's instructions and said, "I believe you won't let me die." Naruto jumped. His feet slipped. He was supposed to jump headfirst, but he accidentally fell headfirst again. The ground grew bigger and bigger in front of his eyes. He felt the cold wind blowing on his face. Naruto's liver was still trembling. On the ground, the two chipmunks that ran away earlier seemed to have remembered the abandoned nuts, so they both ran back. But before they could fight for the nuts, they saw Naruto rushing towards them from above. The chipmunks' tails stood up straight. Their eyes opened wide as they stared at Naruto, who was falling from the sky. Their expressions seemed to be saying, "Fuck, it's this idiot again." Then, perhaps because they were scared or afraid of being splashed with blood, they immediately turned around and ran. The other chipmunk was hesitant about whether to run or run with the nuts. Because it was hesitant, it fell behind the first one. But in the end, it decided to run first. In Naruto's vision, the scenery on the ground continued to magnify. 5 meters. 3 meters. Gunny encouraged him through the consciousness network. "Hold on. Victory is right in front of you." Naruto suddenly had an idea. "I don't think she wants me to die." Gunny affirmed, "She definitely won't want you to die." Naruto's consciousness projection in the spiritual network shook his head and said, "No, I mean she won't let me choose to die. In other words, she will definitely save me, but she might not take me in after saving me." Gunny didn't understand. "You mean?" Naruto said seriously, "I think I have to go all out before I die. Before she saves me, I should try to save myself." That's equivalent to betting on two sides. One bet is that she will take me in if I dare to jump down. The other bet is that I don't cherish life and she won't take me in. But if I save myself, it'll be a sign of me cherishing life. Betting on two sides, no matter what she thinks, will win. Gunny was a little dizzy after hearing that, but he felt that it made sense. He reminded, "There's only 1 meter left." On the cliff, Second last dark blue chakra turned into an arm that quickly reached out and grabbed Naruto. However, just as she was about to grab Naruto, the chakra on Naruto's body suddenly erupted, causing a strong gust of wind to collide with the ground. The suspension bridge was even blown up by the strong wind. In the spiritual network, Naruto said worriedly, "Isn't it too exaggerated?" Gunny didn't know how to answer and said perfunctorily, "As long as you're happy." Chapter 326. Sarui, the owner of the body that Naruto was controlling, was proficient in the wind element chakra. Therefore, Naruto used the wind element chakra to create a strong gust of wind to hit the ground. Then he used the reaction force to stabilize his body that was about to hit the ground. Naruto succeeded. Of course, there was no reason for him to fail. It was just that because he was frightened, he went a little overboard. When the gust of wind hit the ground and blew Naruto up, the 100-meter-long suspension bridge was also blown up. This was a distance of more than 10, or even more than 20 meters. Moreover, the wind first hit the ground and then bounced up. Sarui's falling momentum paused for a moment. His face was a little distorted by the wind, and then he was thrown up by the wind. At the same time, the two chipmunks that hadn't run far were hit. Under the impact of the wind and waves, they turned into two furry cannonballs, shooting into the forest with a whoosh. Then the one that flew in front passed through layers of leaves and crashed into a tree with a dong, directly fainting. The second chipmunk was more fortunate. The first chipmunk crashed into a tree, and the second chipmunk crashed into the first chipmunk. With a buffer, although the second chipmunk was still a little dazed, it still got up from the ground. At this time, the round, rolling nut hit a few trees and rolled into the forest in front of the chipmunk's eyes. The chipmunk rushed up in a daze. When it hugged the nut, it recovered a little. It looked around vigilantly, and after confirming that there were no chipmunks coming to fight for it, it sighed in relief. Hugging the nut, it decided to run away. However, not long after it ran into the forest, it ran back and kicked the fainted fellow with its furry little feet. Seeing that the other party didn't respond, it hugged the nut and sat on it and began to gnaw on it. It's little but even twisted, as if it was saying that the seat was comfortable. What about Naruto? After being thrown up 7 or 8 meters, it finally stopped and then fell again. The dark blue arms formed by the two wooden puppets, and the tailed beast chakra hesitated for a moment before finally grabbing Naruto and lifting him onto the suspension bridge. On the suspension bridge, the two wooden puppets stared at Naruto. Naruto was still in shock. Naruto was worried that the strength he displayed wasn't right and would arouse the other party's suspicion. Just now, he had called chakra from the spiritual network. "You pass. I didn't expect you to have a lot of chakra. Barely qualified to be trained by me." The moment he heard this sentence, Naruto felt the same as when he heard that he didn't fail a subject in school. He instantly breathed a big sigh of relief. This was also the first time he felt that it was really ing difficult. At the same time, under the border town of the country of lightning, in the belly of the earth whale, the guild leader angrily threw the cards in his hand on the table. "I'm not playing anymore. I've been playing for weeks. It's boring." 04 complained. "It's you who always loses. Can't the guild leader remember the cards?" The guild leader said righteously, "What's there to remember for entertainment? It's boring to play like that." 04 wanted to say that it was better than losing all the time. If he didn't catch 4 twos and 2 kings, he couldn't win. This kind of player. But seeing the guild leader's eyes staring at her, she swallowed the words that were about to come out of her mouth. The guild leader's prestige couldn't be ignored. The guild leader turned around and hugged the back of the sofa. This time, the sofas under the girls were real sofas, and they were custom-made for the Earth Whale. From this, it could be seen that the Clown Emperor Mercenary Guild was operating the Earth Whale as their headquarters. The guild leader even wanted to buy a few mural carpets or something, but he was firmly rejected by Naruto. 07. Haven't you found the lightning gem vein? If you can't find it, why don't we change missions? We saw the Earth Nation mission in the underground market yesterday. I think it's more reliable. Naruto sighed inwardly. They had been in the Lightning Nation for almost a month. The girl's patience was much longer than he had expected, but he still needed to buy some time. Sure. But before we leave, how about we tour the Lightning Nation for a while? Didn't we find a place with great scenery yesterday? Why don't we go camping first? I brought barbecue tools. We can catch some game. Oh right, isn't there a river? We can also catch and grill fish. Camping? Barbecue? 05's eyes lit up. She quickly raised her hand and said, I support. Then she looked at 04 and Hinata for help. Originally, Naruto thought that 04 was a swift and decisive person who did things her own way. But after interacting with her, he realized that she was the same kind of person as Gurney. They were the kind of people who would never stand if they could sit, and they would never sit if they could lie down. She could be said to be extremely lazy. Now that she heard that there was something fun to do, she immediately agreed. Hinata knew that Naruto was trying to buy time. Hence, she naturally stood on Naruto's side. The president. That's a good idea. Shall we bring Zero here too? There was no reason for Naruto to disagree. Hence, he hurriedly said, sure, we can also replenish the ingredients that we can't find in the mountains, as well as other things. Thus, the Earth Whale turned around and led the crew to pick up Zero. However, Naruto was also clear that this method was only temporary. It would be good if they could delay it for 3 to 5 days. At most, it would be a week. Any longer and it would be impossible. What then? If they were lucky, it would be better if they could take on another mission in the Lightning Nation. If not, they would have to think of a way to get rid of Second Last, the human pillar force, as soon as possible. However, the solution became a problem. The premise of the battle was that there had to be an undisturbed space. Otherwise, both the Eight Tails and Raikage would be crippled. Teacher Nine Llamas, do you have any good suggestions? Naruto contacted Nine Tails using the Mental Strength Network. On the second floor of the Great Snow Mountain Research Institute in Snow Nation, Naruto's body was being preserved in a corpse coffin. Nine Tails was in Naruto's body. Although he could still connect to the Mental Strength Network, Nine Tails still felt a little bored. What good suggestions can I have? If you want me, I'll just go out and beat those two guys into submission. After the fusion, I'll strictly order them to keep it a secret. Naruto rolled his eyes as soon as he heard the mental projection. Putting aside whether you can beat those two guys into submission, even if they don't tell anyone, can you guarantee that the human pillar force won't? Nine Tails said nonchalantly, catch them all then. You don't have to worry about them leaking then. Catch them all. Naruto's consciousness looked at Nine Tails like he was looking at an idiot. If the fourth Naruto was here, would he be able to catch the two human pillar force in the base camp of the Thunder Nation? Nine Tails said in disdain, if that kid could do it, the world would have already been wood leaves. Naruto mocked. Do you mean that I'm better than the fourth Naruto? Nine Tails shook his head leisurely and said smugly, no, you're not better than the fourth Naruto. I'm the one who's better than the fourth Naruto. Naruto did not stand on ceremony at all. Instead, he said, T, you've already been split in half and sealed. Why are you still pretending? Nine Tails was speechless. You're tuning in to the Earbook Haven YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.